Hello, everyone. I hope everyone's doing well. This is Jelani, by the way. We're still going to wait for some folks to join. We haven't gotten to 9 a.m. yet, but we'll be starting soon. Thanks.
Good morning, Jelani.
Morning, everyone. Hello, everyone. For anyone that's just joined, we are waiting for a few more commissioners to join, and we will get started.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning, everyone. Let's see.
Good morning.
Is it snowing where everyone else is too?
Yeah,
Yes.
just a little bit.
Yeah, pretty hard.
Yeah, it just slowed down though. I was hoping it was gonna keep going.
And just a disclaimer for everyone, we are live on YouTube right now. And I think, let me see how many we've gotten so far. I think we have reached a quorum. So, Chair, you are welcome to call the meeting to order whenever you'd like. And I'm sure we will have some folks joining shortly. But yes, go ahead and call the meeting to order if you like.
All right. Good morning. Happy New Year to everyone. I hope everyone is doing well. And I would like to call today's meeting, January 16, 2021 meeting of High Point Human Relations Commission work plan retreat meeting to order.
And Tammy, if you would like to go ahead and do a roll call.
Okay, can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. We're going to do a roll call for the commissioners this morning for the meeting. We're going to start with Commissioner Bandari. Are you present? Yes.
Yes.
Commissioner Davis. Commissioner Jones.
Present?
Commissioner Price.
Present.
Commissioner Iqbal.
Present.
Commissioner Clark.
Present.
Commissioner Barker. And Commissioner McCray.
Present.
Okay. The January 16, 2021 Human Relations Retreat has show a quorum of 6 members present. 6 and 3 2 of our members are currently not available at this time. So
I think we just had Commissioner Davis just join.
Yes, I did.
okay, Commissioner Davis. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So there are 8 members present currently right now, in the absence of Commissioner Barker, who may or may not come in shortly.
All right. Thank you, Tammy.
You're welcome.
Chair, if I may, I did want to just do a few housekeeping things before we get started. It looks like everybody's got the cameras on, so we're good to go with that. We will be, after some brief introductions, going into a PowerPoint presentation. I know for some of you, the information contained in the presentation will be a recap of what you already know and many of the things that you've already seen. But we do have some new commissioners, and that's an exciting thing, and I'm glad to have that. So we'll be reviewing just some basic functions of the office, what we do on a daily basis, in addition to what's expected of commissioners, how you're appointed, just the ins and outs, general rules of conduct. And just keep in mind, all the information that's in the presentation is contained in the bylaws, which is on our city website. And of course, we can provide that to you in document form if you need it. But I think I've seen that Councilmember Johnson has joined. I did want to open up the floor to him if he wanted to give any remarks just to get us started.
Excuse me. Good morning, everyone. I'm Councilman Tyrone Johnson, Councilman at Large, and I'm just excited about. I was thinking about the retreat on last night, and super excited on some of the things that we talked about on our last meeting. And I know last year was very very trying year for all of us. And so therefore I'm ready to get back in it and definitely, especially on some of those things that we've talked about on last week, on our last meeting. I'm definitely excited about diving more into those. So to our commissioners, thank you so very much for taking the time out to definitely be a part of our community, helping our community, especially during this time. It is needed, it's warranted, and again, I'm just excited. I don't want to take up too much of our time, but again, thank each of our commissioners, our new commissioners as well. You're in for a treat, so looking forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you, Tyrone.
Yes, sir.
And I also was going to allow for Jerron, if he's had a chance to log in just yet, to give any introductory remarks as well.
Good morning, everybody. I just want to echo what Councilmember Johnson said. You'll see this is a very important meeting. It's your opportunity to set your agenda, set your priorities. You're not only showing yourselves as the commission and not only the city council, what priorities that you think are important. This is also a reflection to the community of the kind of work and the kind of priorities that you deem important. So I think everyone should, at this point, think about how you can make a difference and just remember going through these meeting steps and going through some of these discussions. Just remember what the overall goal is, and that whatever comes out of this retreat, as will be with subsequent retreats, represents the entire commission. So those are just some things to keep in mind, and I look forward to a productive meeting and to offer whatever input I can. Again, I'm Jerron Hollis, Communications and Public Engagement Director for the City of High Point. Thanks, Jelani.
Thanks, Jerron. And just a reminder, Jerron actually reminded me of that. When you do speak and engage today, please identify yourself prior to speaking, just so the audience tuning in knows who's actually speaking. I am gonna just echo what Jerron said. Historically, especially for the commissioners that have been serving on the commission for quite a while, that this retreat serves as kind of a launching pad for the rest of the year. And so we've done some things a little different this time around that I think give us a lot of momentum as we head into 2021. One being the communication that we sent to council to get feedback just on their strategic goals. I think that really helped us at the last commission meeting to ensure that we had areas of focus for today's retreat. Honestly, at the last retreat, we came up with many of those areas of focus at the retreat that we were planning the items. So we had to crunch a lot in one day. So I think this gives us a head start. And I think it also allows us to be more efficient with our time today. I'm going to do a brief presentation. Again, I don't want that to be the focus of today. I just want to give some of our new commissioners a little information as they become acclimated with the commission and their expectations and duties. And also just to tell you a little bit about the office and what we do, so you have that working knowledge as you engage folks in the community. So what I'm going to do is just share my screen, and we will pull up a PowerPoint.
Jelani, before you do your presentation, I had some login challenges, but I'm in now, so everything's good. User error, I assure you.
Okay.
Have all the commissioners had an opportunity to introduce themselves?
Well, that would be great. Thanks, Ron. If we want to just go around, we've done the roll call, but if we want to have each commissioner just take a turn to introduce themselves and say anything about why they're excited about being on the commission.
Good morning. Good morning. My name is Stacy Jones. I'm a mom of two boys here in High Point. One is at Allen J, one at Southwest High School. I do HR consulting. I'm working on my real estate appraisal license right now. So I'm really excited about just supporting the community and plugging in, where I can within the city of High Point.
I can go ahead next. Good morning. My name is Dave Bandari, from High Point, of course. I'm a student at UNCG also. I'm doing my master's in accounting, but I'm heavily involved with the community, international community or any community. I'm pretty involved. And this, I always, wanted, or I had interest to be in Human Relations Commission, because this is a unique platform to be in touch with the city and also to be connected with the community as well. So I think this is a unique platform that provides, and we do have guidance in here, how we can come up with the plan. So I'm excited. I was in here last year. I'm excited. I'm more excited this year because we do have priorities already set. And then I had opportunity to reach out to many of our commissioners. I was able to actually speak to them and see, what they're thinking about. And I'm just excited to get this going, even during this, hard time, during this crisis. And I'm sure we would have unique ideas and great ideas for coming year.
Hey guys, my name is Cortland Price. I'm one of the new commissioners. I got elected last year. I know times have been, a little tough with COVID. We've all been having to meet remotely. It's been a challenge for everyone. I am a student at the University of North Carolina, Greensboro, and I'm majoring in political science with a minor in pre-law, or concentration in pre-law. Sorry.
Excuse me, just a gentle reminder, commissioners, if you could keep your cameras on during the retreat, show Mr. Price you don't have any video.
Yeah, my camera is actually broken.
Okay.
Okay, I guess I can go next. My name is Willie Davis. I have served here on this commission before. It's really been enjoyable serving and being a bridge between citizens and this commission to try to help our city become a better city for everyone. I enjoy working with people. I enjoy working with our staff, and I think we got a great group here. So I just really like to do what I can to try to help, the citizens of High Point in any way I can.
I'll go next. My name is Betsy Clark. I moved to High Point from Greensboro about 6 years ago, and I love the city of High Point. And I have 4 children. 20 she's attending Appalachian State. My 17-year-old is attending GTCC, and I homeschool my 2 youngest children. Live with my mother-in-law, lives with us. She has Alzheimer's, so take care of her also. Just passionate about just connecting people in the community, and I also am passionate about health, natural health. So that's one of my passions. Thank you, and I'm excited to be a part of this commission and be able to serve the community in this way.
My name is Kim Barker. I am a mother of 6. I have lived in High Point I judge it by my youngest son because he was 2, for 21 years. And my kids range in age from 23 to 38. I only have one at home who's attending High Point University, and that's why he's living at home, because I don't want to pay those prices. I currently work as a chief of staff at Lincoln Financial, and Stacy, like you, I was in human resources for 17 years, and I have worked from home for probably about 20 years. So this whole new format is kind of new to me, but I can understand why it's difficult for people to get used to. I'm excited to be on this commission for a couple reasons. One, selfishly, I love getting to know new people, people who are very different from me and different views. I think there's power in people who do think differently coming together and coming up with a, somewhere in the middle, whatever it needs to be. And I look forward to working with all of you.
Hi, I'm Shazia Iqbal. I've been in High Point for approximately 18 years. I have 4 kids, all of which are older, and I have 2 grandkids and 1 on the way. And me and myself, people have told me that I know no strangers. I know a lot of people, and I'm always friendly. I love to meet new people. I know I have a lot of activity that I do myself in the city of High Point. And like I said, there are no strangers to me. And I'm just looking forward to being on this committee.
My name is Race McCrae. I work at the library. So if you go there, you may have met me there. And I work mostly in community engagement and program planning. And I also help to manage the library's social media. So if you're ever messaging us, I am probably the one responding. And I've been excited to be a part of this commission as a natural outgrowth of the work I've been doing at the library, where I've made some intentional partnerships with a number of groups within the city, and see this as kind of a great way to just build on that work and continue to make further partnerships and do some good with what's happening in our fair city.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that was everyone. I think everyone had an opportunity to introduce themselves. So now I'm gonna try sharing the screen again, and we are going to dive into just a brief presentation. And I hope everyone can see that. Okay. So again, as I mentioned before, I just want to give everyone a brief overview of not only the department functions, what we do, what we're responsible for within the city of High Point, but also give a brief rundown of the responsibilities of commissioners, some of the guiding rules that are pulled from the bylaws. So as you can see here, we're the Human Relations Division. Our division is within the Communications and Public Engagement department, where the Marketing Division is also housed. Our primary purpose and functions are to serve as an informational resource for landlord-tenant rights and also fair housing related issues. So what that looks like day to day is we get walk-in traffic, we get calls to the office, sometimes referred to us by other departments. Some reach out to us directly, and we primarily help them with housing related issues. Many of you have had the opportunity to get to know Tammy Sanders, our administrative assistant. She does a wonderful job at assessing those complaints when they come in and seeing what they need. As you can imagine, many of the folks that come to our office have multifaceted complaints or issues that they're facing. And so we have to unpack that. Tammy actually comes from planning, so she's accustomed to being able to identify potential code enforcement issues And so it's not uncommon for an issue to come in that may have fair housing implications. They may need advice on certain provisions within their lease, in addition to code enforcement issues. And we may also have to refer them to an external partner or another organization, just depending on what's going on. So for the housing related portion, it also can encompass a lot of the issues. We also serve as a referral source for employment related complaints. And if someone does want to escalate a fair housing issue, we refer them to the North Carolina Human Relations Commission. Based on some of our previous conversations around fair housing, many of you know by now that we do not investigate fair housing complaints ourselves. We assess them, we provide advice to tenants, housing providers as well on fair housing related matters. And if someone wants to file a complaint, they have to go to the state, the North Carolina Human Relations Commission that has jurisdiction over the city of High Point. And we try our best to work with them to make sure there's a smooth transition, to set expectations and make sure they understand what's in front of them. We also have build collaborations and provides connections to other city and community resources. Again, we are accustomed to having to be that kind of web that connects internal departments and external resources for folks. We don't have the luxury of saying we don't do that. A lot of times if they have issues that go beyond the scope of what we do, it then becomes our duty to connect them to other resources, and supports the Human Relations and Student Human Relations Commissions. You guys are familiar with that. We are your staff support. We try to tell you what resources are available and the mechanisms that are in place through our organization to help you execute and implement the programs that you identify and scope out. With the Student Human Relations Commission, as you can imagine, COVID has really slowed that down. We had a few pretty active students that have since graduated. And so one of the things among many that we can discuss today is how to, if we choose to reincorporate that into the commission's functions. So here I have the Fair Housing Act. I think, I shared this last year with the commissioners, but it may even be more appropriate this year. These are the 7 protected classes. I don't want to dive too deep into this or belabor this point, but this is just information you may want to walk around with. Again, the Fair Housing Act is triggered when someone feels that they've been discriminated against based on one of these protected classes, that being race, color, national origin, familial status, religion, disability, and sex. The subpoints you see for some of these, that being the criminal background, reasonable modification, accommodation, and domestic violence, those are areas that a fair housing investigator can investigate a complaint under that are not explicitly protected classes. So HUD has established, for instance, criminal background that statistically blanket policies that housing providers enforce that bar folks with criminal backgrounds from applying for tenancy, historically disproportionately impact people of color. And on that basis, you can file a complaint under the protected class of race for criminal background policy that is too broad, it's a blanket policy, and that it doesn't take into account some of the nuances that can happen in someone's criminal background. Was it arrest versus conviction? Was the nature of the crime related to the safety and security of their tenants on the property? There's a whole analysis that you would go through under that for each one. So these are some of the big ones: criminal background, reasonable modification, and accommodation. Modification being a structural change or a physical change to a property that someone with a disability may request. Accommodation, as opposed to a modification, which is a physical change, is a change in the rules or policies due to that disability. And then domestic violence, much like criminal background, HUD established that women who are statistically more often the victims of domestic violence crimes were being evicted from properties that had blanket policies, that evicted tenants, that had 3 or more phone calls to the police reporting to their unit. Well, in that case, you would be evicting, in some instances, a victim and a perpetrator. And so what HUD asked is that housing providers take a nuanced approach to ensuring that they weren't evicting victims in those instances. And what that required is some landlords looking actually at the police reports to see if it is a domestic violence incident. So those are just some top line things. And again, guys, feel free to stop me if you have any specific questions as I go. But I think just having working knowledge of the 7 protected classes as we look at some of our topics later, as we develop our work plan items, and your area of focus is fair housing as well. So Human Relations Commission 101.
Jelani,
So, yes, Jerome.
This, before you go to the slide, excellent points on that last slide. I want, if you look at some of those areas, those protected classes, I think it's important for the commission to remember that these are individual issues. So there might be 1,000 properties. How many issues that deal with domestic violence, or how many issues that deal with disability? How many do you need before it's important? So if you have an individual case, so I guess the point is this: we tend to think about things just by human nature. We tend to think about things by quantity or by number. But the takeaway here is that all of these protected classes, all of these issues, all of these categories amount to an individual, or they amount to a family that needs support or needs assistance. So when we talk about programs, when we talk about support, when we talk about information, this is as much or more about impact and assistance than it is about being able to count, oh, well, since we don't have more than 100 domestic violence cases a year, then it doesn't have our focus or attention. We don't have the luxury to wait on getting a certain number before we react and before we respond. So these are not widgets. These are not things that we're counting and kind of deeming as cargo. This is an instance where we're talking about individual situations for High Point families that need support, that need help, and need assistance. So when we talk about later on, we talk about programs, or we talk about support, or we talk about the level of service that we provide, it's important to remember in a context that we're talking about individual families. When someone walks into one of our locations, or they walk into our office, they've got real needs as individuals. So that's just something to keep in mind, that as we move forward, the unique and important nature of each of these particular protected classes and categories. Thank you for letting me interrupt, Jelani.
No problem, Jerron. And Jerron makes some phenomenal points. For many of you know, I was a fair housing investigator for the city of Winston-Salem prior to coming to High Point. And one thing I learned in that role is that from an investigation standpoint, which you are, even though you do fair housing trainings, you do outreach efforts, when you get a complaint, that's a reaction to something that's already happened. So the fair housing investigations are not to be confused with assessing need for the function all the time, only because there are a lot of barriers between someone being discriminated against in a housing transaction and then coming to an office to file a complaint. And so in the instance of Winston-Salem, they actually did fair housing testing to assess that need And the numbers bear out that even though that FAP agency had been there for quite a bit of time and took in quite a few complaints each and every year, that discrimination in housing transactions on, I think they did race and national origin and as well as disability, range from 30 to 50% of the tests that were done showed that there was some form of discrimination there. So again, the investigations, to Duran's point, may not be the biggest indicator. How many cases you get may not be necessarily an indicator of the need or the prevalence of these discriminatory actions within the community. But going to the Human Relations Commission 101, where I just want to touch on some of the basic framework of the commission. Again, a lot of this will be review for many of you, but for some of our newer commissioners, I think is key to touch on it. These are all things that are taken from our bylaws. And as you can see, many of them are pretty broad concepts, but I think that's a good thing. It gives us a good bit of flexibility when we're developing work plan items, the study of problems in areas of human relation, the promotion of equity for all citizens, the promotion of understanding, the provision of channels among diverse groups, encouraging the employment of qualified people without regard to race, color, religion, gender, sex, age, national origin, disability, or genetic information, encouraging youth to become better trained and qualified for employment. Again, I will note that this is covers a broad a swath of things that we can target as a commission. So just keep that in mind, that we don't have to be too narrow in our focus. While each individual item that we come up with may have a specific focus, what we have to choose from can be broad, and we have some flexibility there. Membership, the mayor has the ability to appoint along with the city council. You are confirmed and approved by city council. You must reside within the city of High Point. City council shall nominate one member of the city council to act as liaison, which is council member Tyrone Johnson. Again, these are your general terms by which you serve. All members will serve a 2-year staggered term. No member shall serve more than 3 consecutive terms. Each member shall hold office until the appointment of his or her successor, or until 1 year has lapsed since the expiration of the term for which the member was appointed. Again, many of you are familiar with this, but feel free to stop me if you have any specific questions. Attendance, this is something that we really want to key on this coming year. It's really important that each member, when they are appointed by council, they're affirming that they have a commitment to these issues and what we do as a commission and as a staff. And your attendance is a reflection of that. Your attendance is vital also to implementing and executing the items that you develop on your work plan. So while you are, in essence, volunteers, we see it as that you've affirmed that you have a high level of commitment to these issues and that you've already assessed your availability such that you can commit a certain amount of time each month to these items, even in between meetings. What we want to continue is that our chair has direct contact with you between meetings to discuss what's happened and to make sure that you have thought about it yourself and are coming prepared to the next meeting. So we really want to focus on attendance this year and ensuring that all our commissioners are active and engaged.
Lonnie?
Yes.
Just another point on the attendance. When a council member appoints one of our commissioners to serve on this board, they're counting on you, and in many cases assuming that you have sort of weighed out the cost of time and participation in your schedule. And I've told commissioners in the past, sometimes things happen in life, where our schedules for all of us, 2020 was a great example. Sometimes sometimes things happen that you don't expect, or things that you didn't plan to encounter. And so as things change, there's no harm if one day as a commissioner you say, well, I've got a new job, or I'm moving. That's happened recently with us. But for the people that have been appointed, for those of you that are on this call, attending this meeting, I think there is an expectation, not only by your appointing council member, but also by staff, that there's going to be a time commitment, and there's going to be a commitment of participation to make everything that we do successful. So think about it this way: later on, as you vote on particular items, each item that you vote to support, or that you vote to include on the 6-month work plan that we presented to council, your vote is saying, I'm going to do some small part in making this event successful, making this initiative successful. So, you're raising your hand saying, I'm going to do my part. And that's really what we're looking for. So meeting attendance is part of it. Program participation and many other things that go with these initiatives is just as important. Thanks, John.
Thank you, Jerron. These are some items of general conduct. I won't read each one. I think you have it on your screen yourself in the bylaws that you have access to. But I do want you to keep in mind that when you are engaging, whether it's in public forums or just in your daily dealings, now that you're a commissioner that's been appointed by city council, you do represent the city of High Point. And you just want to keep that in mind as you engage in certain activities, especially if what you're doing, you're working in the official capacity as a human relations commissioner. I will use our chair Bendari, as an example. Often he's a very active person and is engaged in a lot of community activities. It's not uncommon that he will reach out to me and let me know of some of the activities that he's doing, and even at times ask if I could acknowledge that I'm human relations commission chair as part of those activities. So what he's doing is just making sure that there's no conflicts, there's nothing that would reflect poorly on the city of High Point since accepting that role and representing the commission. So those are just a few things to keep in mind with that. I didn't know if Jerron had anything to add to that.
Yeah, this is, forgive me, this is Jerron House again, Communications Public Engagement Director. Another thing to go on with these points is media. Every now and then, if there's an issue or if there's something that comes up, you might find yourself in a position where a reporter or news outlet is asking you questions. Our general, and we even extend this to our elected officials, we offer, in our department, we offer ourselves as a resource. And so we don't want to put anybody in a situation where they feel like they have to speak on behalf of the city, or they have to speak on behalf of the commission. So anything with media that is brought your way, we would encourage commissioners to let us know so we can help with whatever that story is. But you do have to remember this balance to the orange line that talks about the high standard of conduct. You are, as a commissioner, you are representing in public, you're representing the city, you're representing the Human Relations Commission. So sometimes you weigh out the things that you do and things that you say. It could appear that you're acting or speaking on behalf of the commission. So you just have to be mindful of what hat you have on. I mean, we all have our political opinions, we have our private opinions, we have our things that are important to us. The actions that we do in relation to the Relations Commission are a reflection of the collective body of the commission, of the collective of the city administration and our city council. So you're not really speaking as an individual, you're speaking as a part of a group. And so we want to be careful about speaking in terms of what the city's going to do or what the commission is going to do. These meetings are where we get the product of what we're going to do and speaking as a group. And so it's just important as you're in the public or you're engaged with media to remember that people, when they hear you talk, they might be assigning that particular conversation as the speech of the city or as a speech of the commission. So just be mindful of that. And we want to make sure that, we're available to assist if there is some media situation where you find yourself. That's all I had, John.
Thanks, Ron. And this is a continuation. And one thing I did, and Jerron touched on many of these items. Another thing just to piggyback off of, and this is Jelani Biggs, Human Relations Manager, piggyback off of what Jerron just said, is also conduct, how you treat each other, your fellow commissioners. While we want to have robust discussion about work plan items, about strategic outlook, about varied approaches, you're here, and because you have varied approaches, varied experiences, you can tap into different parts of the community. So we all bring different perspectives, but what we want to do is be constructive in any of the feedback that we give, and that personal comments and personal attacks are not something that's welcome on the commission. And so we just want to keep it such that we're respectful of each other's opinions, and we have a good working relationship. Here, I don't have much on conflict of interest. There's actually a pretty robust section in your bylaws. So I strongly encourage commissioners to look at this, but commissioners must avoid any activity that will impair or impugn the independence, integrity, or impartiality of the commission. There must be no apprehension of bias based on what a reasonable person might perceive. All that to say, I would give a good example. If you have a nonprofit or a certain organization that you may have dealings with or a vested interest in your personal dealings, that the commission is not a body by which you can use resources, assistance, manpower to assist you in those personal dealings. And so the commission's work is a reflection of the city of High Point and its strategic goals and initiatives, and the resources are directed to that end. And so there shouldn't be an instance where these activities, these things that we come up with or use, are in some ways directed for your own personal gain. And if anybody has any questions about that, feel free to let me know. Again, elections and chair and vice chair. I won't spend much time on this. We just went through this and the turnover of our chairs and vice chairs. Again, we're excited to have Deb Bendari and Willie Davis serve in those capacities. They're both longtime commissioners, and I think they're ready to do the job. These historically have been our committees. I'm not sure if today we'll touch on this, but we historically haven't had an executive committee, interfaith advisory committee, as well as an international advisory committee. Both of those committees, just structurally, were set to meet and come up with ideas and almost be working group in those specific areas. And they would each have chairs that were from the commission, but the bodies themselves were comprised of community members. They were not commissioners. They served as work groups that would then pass recommendations back to the larger commission through their respective chairs and help in implementation of work plans and strategic goals from there. Again, this is something that can be readdressed by staff and the commission as we take on different issues. There may be some flexibility in how we define these moving forward. Again, these are some of the things that you see us do on a daily basis. Robert Rules of Order, simple majority of voting members, making sure that we have a quorum. Again, I won't belabor that point so that we have time to work on our work plan. So before we get started, let me stop sharing my screen. And before I say that, did anyone have any questions about what was presented? Okay, hearing none.
I'm sorry, I was slow unmuting myself. Is there a way that you can share those slides with us via email or something, Jelani?
Sure, that's not a problem. I'll be
Okay,
happy.
that'd be great. Thank you.
And as we transition to our work plan development, and before I turn it back over to the chair, I do just want to review the areas of focus. I'm sure everybody's familiar with them that we voted upon at the previous meeting. They were emailed to you just as a reminder. But the commission did vote to focus on fair housing research, conflict resolution training for the commissioners, youth homework assistant program, and curate a directory of helper/community organizations. So that's just a quick overview of what the commission has agreed to focus on as they work out what those specific work plan items will be. Just for context, some things that I've mentioned to each of you, and I'm sure Jerron will have some feedback as well, is that historically we've may have included work plan items and a good long list of them, maybe up to 7 of items that are good and helpful, but may not have been things that the entire commission really wanted to buy into and engage with. So as opposed to just the number of items, I encourage the commission to only put items on this work plan that they really want to jump behind and they're prepared to roll up their sleeves and get engaged with. If that means that it's half that number, I think that's great. It gives us some specific areas to focus on. And I think a few really well done and thought about and implemented programs are better than 7 that may not be done in that fashion. So, Jerron, did you have anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, I think let's go ahead and put this out there. I don't know how many of you were in our last retreat that we had. Who's participated in a retreat with us before? Right. Okay. Historically, people have participants on the commission. To Jelani's point about the 7 or 8 items on the work plan, we have had some feedback from commissioners in the past that some of the programs and some of the items were not as impactful. They were feel-good items, potlucks and the like that were really great sort of meet and greet type of events, which have their place. But many people have asked, and I think this group and I think this work plan is a reflection of that the commission kind of roll up their sleeves and do some substantive things. Something to keep in mind as we move forward. If you think about the Human Relations Commission, and I'm not going to say into the record a year that I'm not particularly comfortable with, but the formation of the Human Relations Commission, it's a product out of the civil rights. That's the time frame that we're talking about, that the Human Relations Commission was put into place. And so there's been lots of changes, developments, advancements, but the genesis of this had its roots in trying to address important societal issues. And I'm not a historian, but I think that's an overall kind of snapshot of what the goal and the focus is here. But I want you also to remember there are things that you're going to discuss as a commission that only you. There's no other appointed commission in the city that's going to engage and deal with some of the topics that you talk about. So remember, you are uniquely positioned to help make a difference and address some community issues that with all the commissions that we have, historic preservation, planning and zoning, parks and rec commission, they all have their function and their purpose. This commission also has a function and a purpose. And so keep in mind when we talk about programs, when we talk about initiatives, we talk about things that we do, and I made this point, I think a couple of meetings ago, think about the things that we are uniquely positioned to do as a commission and also balance out the things that are already going on. So we, in years past, we would get great ideas, but, if someone says, what, I think we need the commission, we need to establish a food alliance, and then after a little conversation and talking, say, oh, wait a minute, there's already a food alliance out there. So let's not reinvent the wheel. I mean, there's plenty of work to be done, and I think this group has demonstrated that they want to focus in areas where there's need, there's potential collaborations in some cases, and in other cases, things that don't exist that need to. So just keep that in mind as we go forward. This is important work. We're not just putting together a brunch. I mean, there's some real issues that the city, our leadership, our elected have demonstrated that they want to make a difference, and we want to echo that sentiment. That's all I have, John. Jerron Hollis, Communications Public Engagement Director.
Thanks, Ron. Now, after that rousing speech, I think we're ready to jump into some work plan development here. Chair, I will turn it over to you. I will, if we want to start with fair housing research for our commissioners to start deliberating about.
I'm talking right now.
Okay, all right.
I'm sorry, I was just telling to my daughter.
I understand.
Excuse me, one second too. One thing I neglected to mention while I was just rallying the troops. The Jerron Hollis here again. We historically, and Jelani, I don't know if in my documents, I have to go back and click if we had that worksheet, that kind of assessment worksheet that we've had in the past for our individual programs. Essentially, every work plan item, it has fallen under the scrutiny of, and I'm in no particular order, what resources are going to be required for this? What's the budget impact and what's the timeline for implementation? So we don't want to present something, if we have a really great idea that's on the work plan and, and we're in the council meeting and, maybe a member of council or staff member says, okay, how long is this going to cost? So there's a lot of things we can do that don't have a cost, they don't have a budget impact. There's some things that have a minor budget impact that we be able to absorb in our existing resources. And then I'm not sure that there's necessarily anything on this particular agenda, but sometimes we might have ideas or initiatives that are that require resources that we don't. And then that's where we think about bringing in agency partners or those kinds of things. So be thinking about things in that context, because we're coming up with strategies, but we should also walk away with a plan of attack. I know Kim is a real stickler about that. Thank you, Kim. There's got to be a sort of a timeline and a resource allocation, so we know what we need to do. How many volunteers do we need? How many bottles of water will this take? How many hours will we need to put towards this particular project or initiative? So what you recommend, think about execution, think about how we get there, and again, think about what your part will be in making it successful.
Thank you, Jerron. Jelani Biggs, Human Relations Manager. And to that point, each of you were emailed the work plan item template. To Jerron's point, it's a framework to lay any of these ideas over to help you kind of think about implementation, what resources may be needed. And if you don't have it in front of you, I am going to just read them off really quickly so that as we go through these items, you have them in your mind. Number one is refine the identified highest priority initiatives into specific statements to be achieved. Number two, identify when progress toward or successful completion of the initiative will be measured. Number three, identify the results or evidence to document successful completion of the initiative. And as a continuation under that same one is ID meaningful milestones to measure progress when initiative completion is beyond the work plan cycle. So if we're planning something that we know won't be implemented until the next 6-month work plan, let's identify that as this being a planning period, and then implementation will come in the second part of the year. Number four, identify the resources needed for this initiative to be successful. To Jerron's point on resources that we may have at our disposal and others that we may need to leverage partnerships. What else? Number five, what else does the commission need to move forward successfully? So those are just a few questions that I think if we answer for each of the items that we come up with, we'll have a better framed out. Mr. Jerron, did you have something you want to add?
Are we able to share that document? Do we have it electronically so everybody
Sure.
can kind of
give me 1 second and I'll share it on my screen.
My shorthand is not what it used to be. You know, keyboards have taken that away from me.
Let me escape. So Chair, if you want to go ahead and get the discussion started on our first item, which is fair housing research, what I'll do is pull up that document, share it, and put it on the screen. And so by the time you guys start talking, it'll be there.
Sure. And I think everything is very well covered by Jerron and Jelani. This is Dave Bandari. So I reached out just to get the conversation going yesterday to Mr. Davis and Mr. McRae, Mr. Price, and Mrs. Iqbal. And I was able to speak to Mrs. Clark also and left voicemail to Ms. Barker. You know, we talked. I think we do have pretty, you know, solid ideas how we are going to have those on work plan, but also, like Jelani said, I had in mind that how we can come up with some sort of event or how we can feed them in the work plan, because we do have this timeline and, you know, and how we can accomplish something within, you know, period of time that we have throughout the year, or, you know, what we can accomplish in 2021. And also, you know, keeping everything in mind that we cannot, you know, have public gathering. We have all those restrictions right now, and the number is going up. So how we can fit those kind of events. And I was just thinking about this event last night, and I was thinking how we can design something, or, you know, those are our priorities, but how we can design based on those, you know, restrictions that we have, you know, compliances that we have, and also work proactively, you know, engage and bring the community together. But, you know, I would like to, you know, open the floor, maybe start with Mr. Davis, because he had, we discussed about fair housing briefly. So I would like to share his ideas and how we can, you know, design or come up with something that is in his mind, you know, based on time frame and the, you know, outline that we have. So floor is all yours, Mr. Davis.
Yes, this is Vice Chair Davis, Willie Davis. But one of the things with me with fair housing is the FAP agency. I really think that it's important that we get it, find a way to get it up and going. Citizens deserve it. I've heard citizens say they want it. And for us to be a good bridge between citizens and this committee for fair housing, we really need that FAP agency. And I'm just like, because like Jerron, I mean, like Jelani was saying, you know, there's a lot of different things to cover under that. Well, if we don't have anything here, like I've always said, for a way to investigate it, just let's go to domestic violence. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Jelani, if you were saying like if it could be we have domestic violence, well, you could be put out for that, but you might be putting out the victim as well as the one that's doing the beating, you know, that's causing the problem. Well, that's not good for, that's not helping the victim at all. And if he has to go to Raleigh and sit on a desk for however long before they can get to it, that's not good for the citizens of High Point. It's not. I don't think it's fair for them. If we have our own, we can do it here and resolve the problem a lot quicker and be more sufficient for our citizens. You know, one of the things I do believe in is what we do is for our citizens. It is for our citizens. It's for, you know, we try to do what's best for our citizens of High Point. And I really think that we need, what I would like to see is from staff to see how can we as commissioners help staff get this going? How can we get this presented to council to maybe get a vote on it, to even to get the wheels rolling? I mean, we've talked about it, we voted on it, we've done a lot of different things, but I like to see us move to the next step to making this successful.
Thank you, Vice Chair Davis. One thing I just want to make sure that we keep in mind, I'm sure Jerron will have some comments on this as well. You know, our partners with the North Carolina Human Relations Commission, that's a valued partnership, and they do great work there. I think what Vice Chair Davis was getting at is that they do have a large area of the entire state to cover. And so for efficiency's sake, I do understand that from a customer service standpoint, looking at what that may mean to have a local office in High Point. With that said, there are a lot of components to establishing a FAP agency far beyond and have wide-ranging impacts that go beyond just our office. I always say, you know, a fair housing assistance program or a FAP agency exists in an ecosystem of a lot of different resources. One being, you know, city attorney's office, one being budget. You know, the first step at establishing a FAP agency through HUD, if they approve you, is enacting a fair housing ordinance, which would involve our elected officials. So while I think there is space for gathering additional information on what that would look like, I do think we are wise to understand the totality of what it would take to implement a program like that. I also want us during this portion of it to understand that there's a spectrum, I think, of what we can do in terms of increasing fair housing awareness. That could be a step prior to exploring what it would take to be a fair housing assistance program, whether that's a robust training module where we inform city elected officials, interested parties within the city and externally on fair housing rights, what a FAP agency looks like, almost having an intense information series of information sessions just so folks understand exactly what they're looking at. I have no illusions, although I dream about FAP agencies. A lot of people just don't know what they are. And I think that, before the decision makers can properly assess what needs to happen, there may need to be some additional information shared. But Jerron, I didn't know if you had anything you wanted to add to that.
Yeah. I think let's let's take a step back for the benefit of our commissioners and those who might be tuning in to kind of hear this deliberation. Let's take, and Jelani's our subject matter expert on fair housing, so he'll reel me in if this gets off the rails. But we'll take one of the issues that we mentioned earlier, if it's a fair housing issue involving any of those protected classes. So let's say that with disability. To put a concrete example on what Vice Chair Davis is talking about, or the general subject matter, as it stands now, that individual comes in with an issue related to their housing status connected to them being in a protected class. We're able, as of today, we're able to take information from that person and refer them to an agency that's in another city, an agency that's in Raleigh. Now, so if you think about it, Raleigh, for every city that, even our many sister cities that are a lot smaller than we are, Raleigh is handling all of those issues from across the state. There are some cities, and there are some of our surrounding cities that have decided for that individual case where the person comes in with a disability concern. And right now, disability is the leading fair housing complaint that we get, at least for 2020, I believe, Jelani. So as a process stands now, we'll say, yeah, well, we've got some really good partners in Raleigh that are going to help you with this. What our experience has been, many of the people who are frequent visitors to our office on issues, some people there's some things we take for granted, in our socioeconomic privilege, right? And so many times we'll say, well, just send them an email, just give them a call. Maybe you need to go down there, And so we make some assumptions based on where we are about how easy access can be for any particular High Point resident. And I can tell you, if someone comes in, many of the people that we see that have a fair housing issue that's important to them, their resources might not be what some of our resources are on this webinar. So I think what Vice Chair Davis has talked about and what the commission has alluded to, and even what Jelani is talking about as far as a framework, is for High Point, what would it look like if that person with the disability issue was able to get the information that they needed here locally where they're having their issue, rather than them having to call Jelani or come in and talk to Tammy, and then they're quote unquote put in queue with an agency that's in another city. It puts an additional, some would say that this puts an additional barrier between the resolution to the problem. And our advocates that would talk about fair housing, and so when they say when we say FAP, what we're essentially talking about is an agency, a city like High Point, being able to provide the services that would be necessary to resolve this issue. And many issues are resolved. So we're not talking about always, hauling somebody off to jail or, lumping huge fines on people's heads. It's about issue resolution. Everything doesn't end in court. There are ways that we can have, we would have tools to be able to resolve some of these issues. But so when we talk about what is versus what could be and what the commission is discussing, I just think it's important in context and definition. What we're talking about here is being able to provide a service in City Hall that's not available in City Hall, as opposed to referring our residents to an agency that is east of us. So so that's just to boil this down in the plain language. Now, and I think what Jelani's talking about is all of the pieces necessary. So we don't, the commission doesn't take a vote today to say, hey, you know what, we need to be a fair housing provider and we'll start it on Tuesday after MLK Day. There's some pieces that are involved there. I think, and other commissioners, in addition to Mr. Davis, feel free to weigh in here. I think what we've heard from this group is turning that page and seeing what implementing that process looks like, seeing what if we started going down that road, what information would our council, what information would our senior staff need to be able to make a good decision, to be able to put a timeline together. And while that would not be a function of this commission, if we did become, as the city of High Point, if we did become an agency provider, as I've just outlined, the commission would be involved in some of those issues that do escalate. So the commission would have a modified role should that role of the city change. But I just wanted to, for definition, so that everybody sort of gets their bearings. What we're talking about on this particular item is the city providing a level of support and investigative authority that we currently don't have, that would allow us to provide for our residents local, rather than having to send them to an agency that is, outside of our borders. So just wanted to make sure we were all on the same page and knew what we were talking about. Mr. Chair, back to you. Thank you for letting me make those comments.
This is Kim Barker. Can I make a comment? After listening to both Jelani and Jaron, perhaps relative to this topic, one of the actions we could take as I look at this framework is the priority would be to create a sub-team, maybe of this group, that would maybe work with Jaron and Jelani to lay out that timeline, because Jelani, you laid out a specific thing that this committee could help with, is that training package, of whatever we want to call it, that would help educate, provide some education and figure out the best way to disseminate that education to the people who need it. That's something that this committee probably could tackle and accomplish, while at the same time, the other steps could be taken in the appropriate manner, laying out, because we can't, it sounds like a huge process to get the FAF whatever here. But we can take step one in creating that education, and then, the other steps can be kind of done in the background, and we can at least map it out so that we can clearly understand it and see it on one page. This has to happen, this has to happen, and this has to happen. And here's where this commission can help in this process, because it's not anything, based on what I heard, we can do in and of ourselves. Did I understand it right, or did I make sense?
No, Kim, I think you hit on exactly what I was mentioning, is that due to the nature of any municipality or any entity becoming substantially equivalent, which is signing that memorandum of agreement with HUD to become a FAP agency, there's steps to that process. They go far beyond what the commission is responsible for. So I think you make a strong point that there may need to be some research and training that could be laid out, and maybe in a committee form for steps moving forward. But any other commissioners that want to deliberate on that or have any ideas like Kim, just let us know.
This is Dave Bandari, Chair for Human Relations Commission. I just wanted to add, and I agree with Ms. Barker, that maybe we can start off with something, some sort of training, or, maybe, I do not know how complicated it is to set up, a FAP agency. and we would like to learn about it. And like, small details when it comes to licensing and everything. And I know it is going to be, a process, bit of a process. And we're looking for, we're trying to establish, we're trying to come up with something, or trying to finalize something that we're trying to accomplish within 2021. If we, keeping timeline to establish whole, FAP agency in High Point, what we can do to start off. Maybe, commissioners can get a start with getting training, get knowledge about what are the responsibilities, or, how to set up, or, just basic foundations, just to start off of, and then maybe that is something that we can do in 6 months or in 2021, and we can build up on it. We can, I think, the bottom line of my point is, maybe we do need, maybe we can start off with a training in this work plan in regards to FEP agency setup or establishment, or how it perform, things like that. And that is, I think that would be a good start, just to start getting the training. But this is just my point of view, but I'm open to any discussion, conversation, and that is what I wanted to say. Thank you.
Did anyone else have anything they want to add on that topic?
I sort of think in the way, this is Stacy Jones, talked about what Kim Barker was sharing, creating a subcommittee. I think we can all agree we want to try as best we can to remove barriers, and it definitely falls in line with what our mission is, or the goals are of this particular commission. It does seem like a huge elephant, but we can sort of eat it one bite at a time. And maybe starting out with the subcommittee who can sort of pull everything together. I think we're just sort of all over the place about what this entails. So maybe creating the subcommittee to pull all the pieces together and create us an outline. And the first piece of that definitely could be what Dev Bhandari suggested, which was just an education of it, an overall education of what it looks like. And then what are the pieces? What's the steps to implement? And I agree also with Deb that it probably will take, maybe this year to pull those pieces together, but at least we can get the ball rolling and not just talk about it, but actually start some action towards it.
This is Councilman Johnson, and I definitely would agree with all the commissioners. But definitely, I think, is it going to be a task, a huge task? Perhaps, but taking it one step at a time, and the educational piece would be excellent. But I just believe that we need to find out a little bit more on it, and getting that in High Point, how it would look in High Point, may not necessarily how it looks in another city. So I believe getting us educated so we can educate, so other people can be educated, I think is the key. So I definitely agree with all of the commissioners on that.
This is Kim Barker again. So and this is maybe a point of just procedure to move forward, because I know this was one of the topics that we were to address. If the committee is in agreement with the go forward plan, would we then go in and refine the initiative, get this documented, and then do we need to fill this in today and then move to the next topic? Or how is that going to work, just from a move forward perspective?
Thank you, Kim, and Mr. Chair. I think what I'm hearing from the majority of those that have weighed in is that maybe the next step or the item to consider related to this work plan piece is to form that subcommittee and that subcommittee could be doing some work in the background from, between meetings, and kind of come back with that presentation to the larger group. So maybe the next step for consideration, and again, this is for your consideration. Maybe the next step is that subcommittee, and because there's so many pieces and there's so many important things to talk about. We could probably cover that over a period of 5 or 6 hours and not even be halfway through. But maybe this is where we have a subcommittee and we get some people on the commission to volunteer or assign, however you want to do it. And that can be the actionable piece for now, with the understanding that this group would come back, the subcommittee would come back, and maybe as far as the work plan goes, that there would be periods of either reporting out or periods of updates that would happen between work plan items. Those could look like a number of things. Those could look like meetings with staff. Those could look like meetings that have the decision makers and the elected officials present. Those could look like meetings with and educational sessions with our agency partners and our community stakeholders. So there's a lot that I think a subcommittee could work on, but to the points that have already been made, maybe it is important to say, let's form as next steps that subcommittee, and then that subcommittee can go through some of the processes and timelines so that we know what it would look like a week from now, a month from now, 3 months from now. Mr. Chair, for your consideration.
Yes, I mean, I think that would be one step, like Councilman Johnson said. With that would be maybe initial step. Setting up that subcommittee, and then that committee would be working on reaching out to the different resources like staff or NCHRC that deals with the matter, and then maybe reporting back to the larger meeting like this. So I think yes, establishing subcommittee would be the number one step, or I think that is what we can conclude on.
And this is Kim Barker, and perhaps we could even add a little bit more teeth into it and say that the subcommittee will report out on actions at subsequent HRC meetings and be very specific so that we can see it move forward, and set the expectation that there will be meetings in between HRC meetings so that we aren't just talking about it at each HRC meeting, that there's activity going on in between, because otherwise we're never going to get to where we really need to be.
Yes, I agree with you 100%.
Agreed. And Mr. Chair, if I may, this is one of those overlapping areas with staff. So as with all of the initiatives, staff support is here. So since we kind of work with it every day, we be sort of that backbone of support and kind of help facilitate and provide the resources that the subcommittee needs. And some of that framework, there's a lot of institutional knowledge that we have here and a lot of resources. So as always, staff would be more than willing to support that committee in any way that we can.
And this is Kim again, and perhaps maybe staff becomes a permanent part of that subcommittee. One of you, either Jaron or Jelani, is a member of that subcommittee.
So yes, so maybe we've got a stopping point for that particular for the pieces mentioned here, and if we want to move on to the next item, and then as we and Tammy, if you're out there in cyberspace, if you've got enough of notes and documentation, maybe when the group votes on the work plan in its entirety, that this piece of it would already be assigned. So this will be item 1. So when we report out, what we would have when we talk about the work plan, for example, we'd be able to explain to council that a subcommittee's been established with staff support to meet back in regularly scheduled iterations to talk about how we develop the next steps for providing information to make a firm decision or something like that. So if Mr. Chair, if it pleases the chair, maybe we can take that that piece, put a pin in it, and if there's agreement or additional discussion, if we don't have it now, then as we go through and work through the entire work plan, then this would be one piece that, at least for these purposes, is kind of resolved to look like what we've kind of outlined in this discussion.
I think, or I'm not sure if we can go ahead and vote on that one and see if everybody is okay with it.
And this is Kim, just one more time. If we're going to, would it be appropriate to identify a subcommittee so we have names against it moving forward, so that there's people know what action they have versus just saying we're going to create a subcommittee?
Sure. I think we can. I think since we have everybody, I think we can go ahead and create a subcommittee today. I think the question would be, who can or who is available to manage or commit some time seriously to being on this subcommittee, because there would be time involved in this one, and also would be some of the detail work in connection with staff and everything. So I would start off with maybe who would like to be on it, or who can commit some time, and then we'll go from there.
If I may, not to belabor the point, maybe I'm not sure if we say establishing a subcommittee right now. I'm not sure, and Jelani, feel free to jump in here. I'm not sure we know at this point what that time commitment looks like, and how many meetings and where and all that. We would be, if it is the desire, the will and the desire of the commission to establish that subcommittee with staff, we could have, for the sake of time, we could communicate with commissioners and establish the interest in participating. I'm thinking of a group of no more than 3 or 4 on that subcommittee, and then we could report back out. We could, commit to report back at the next commission meeting who that group is. We could even send that communication before the meeting. But I think it's probably important. I would hate for someone to say, yes, I want to do it, and then it turns out that the meetings are, Tuesday afternoons, and that becomes a schedule challenge. So if it's okay, we'd be more than happy to arrange some of the administrative parts and some of those things with the establishment of the volunteers. All of our communication is transparent. Everyone, we'd include everybody on those communications. So maybe as a goal, we could say that by the next HRC meeting, we will have established the subcommittee. We will have gotten the commitment of those 3 or 4 volunteers, and then staff can kind of help set up what that schedule would look like, order and time and those kinds of things. Because I don't think we're going to be able to arrange all that right now. But like I said earlier, that's our job to kind of help, just like we coordinate, just like we coordinated this meeting. It's what we do. So that could take the headache away from some of what we're talking about now, if you're open to that. But I just wanted to offer that as a sort of a buffer in case people are fretting now and scanning through their calendars and all that we're committing to something. But we will need, at the end of the day, we will need about, I would say, at least 3 commissioners that will be dedicated to add this to their already hefty schedule. So I just wanted to put that out there if you want to consider that, Mr. Chair.
Sure, I think that's fair enough. Or I'm open to that, and I would like to check and see if anybody has any say on that one, or Mr. Davis has, since you have been, we discussed about it, and so I would like to check and see from our vice chair.
I think, Jerron, this is Willie Davis, Vice Chair again. I think what Mr. Hollis has said makes a lot of good sense. I think it's appropriate things to do to make sure that we all can, whoever is on the committee does have the time. And I'm willing to wait. And as long as we get it going, I think as long as we turn, like Kim was saying, as long as we turn the next page, that's the most important thing. So I think it's a great idea. I think it's a great idea. Back to you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you so much, Mr. Davis. And I think that being said, I think we can transition to our next topic for the work plan, that is conflict resolution training. And feel free to chime in or just share anything or ideas on conflict resolution. So floor is open to everyone, and share ideas. Just feel free.
This is Race McCrae, and I can start off with this just because I know that I introduced this as a topic at our last meeting. So I just wanted to remind everyone what I had suggested on this in case others had different directions. Feel free to chime in. But what I had suggested is that members of the commission receive conflict resolution training so that we ourselves would be ready, would have the ability and technical knowledge to help with conflict resolution training. However, I suggested this for a number of reasons. One, I think it's a great first step towards work on a FAP agency. It is not dependent on it, but if we were to become a FAP agency, I think that we would need some of that knowledge, or at least be helped with some of that knowledge. That would make it a little bit easier for us to do some of that work. So I thought it was a great first step in that way, a tangible step we could take. The other thing is, I was not suggesting this as for commissioners to then become conflict mediators for members of the community. We are, that's a lot of pressure to put on us, first off. But the second thing is that we serve a higher administrative role, that as people who are focused on all of the citizens, it could create potential conflicts and perception of bias if we're acting as mediators. But more importantly, the third thing would be that then we could take that training and train other groups to do the conflict resolution. And that's what I saw as kind of the key part of this, would not be that we would be doing it ourselves, but that we could extend that and build bridges within other groups in the community, while also promoting just general conversation, so that we ourselves wouldn't be necessarily involved in the conflict except when it came up as potentially a part of the FAP agency, but that we would still be able to spread that, and that we could do that in a way that would be, we would pay, obviously someone to train us, but then we could offer that as a free service so that groups could learn these tools and make the knowledge more transparent and accessible. So that was my kind of general direction of what I had hoped in that.
So Race, this is Kim. It was more of a train the trainer mindset. And yeah, because the train the trainer, that would be a different way. They would train us differently with that in mind, right?
Absolutely.
So, yeah, I think that's a wonderful idea. I like your reasonings behind it, and the reasonings why we should go that approach versus the other that you said. So, yeah, I would support that.
Mr. Chair, Race, just Jerron Hollis here, Communications Public Engagement Director. Just for a point of clarification, and Jelani, I don't know if you want to jump in on this. From a staff perspective, there are human relations departments statewide and actually nationwide that have conflict resolution as a part of the service offered for residents that walk in the door, that has its own pieces and parts to it. Just for a clarification, are we talking about this being offered as a function within our municipality for residents, or does it take on a slightly different role of empowering an outside group or an outside agency from the conflict resolution. Because in real time, what I would see this being, and Jelani, please, I'd like to hear your comments on this too. So John Smith has an issue with Jane Doe, and staff or someone trained in conflict resolution, as would be appropriate, say in a FAP agency, that's actually something that is handled with emails, phone calls, things that are happening within the city structure. Is that more what you had in mind? Just for clarification, so we can kind of position ourselves at what level of support and how we would be involved from a staff standpoint.
So this is Race McRae. I would like to hear Jelani's thought. My initial understanding is that I don't know what falls under the logistics of a FAP agency. So I want to separate out that kind of complaint because I don't know how we would be involved. You've already established that we would, if we became a FAP agency, the commissioners would be involved more directly in complaints. And I don't understand that. So I want to set that aside. But I think a more, to your point, I can elaborate. I think, like, let's say there is a conflict about something that doesn't involve a FAP agency. You know, I don't know. You know, there's somebody who doesn't like a banner that's on a storefront that says something. It doesn't matter even what it says. And someone else says, I don't like that. And there's a conflict between neighbors about that. There's no legal aspect. You know, we're not necessarily saying that one person is right or wrong in the eyes of the law, but we see that there's a conflict. In that case, I do not think that the commissioners themselves would be helping to mediate that negotiation, that conflict. Instead, we would say be training members of the Visitors Bureau, or you know, the members of whoever would want to apply, members of a local church, it doesn't matter. And that if someone then came to us and said, we're having a conflict, we could say, we have trained these folks, and here's a list of organizations who are trained in conflict mediation by us, so that you can go to them, so that we're not in actuality responsible for resolving the conflict. I think that kind of alleviates us of some of that responsibility, but that we would help provide some community leaders with the training where they could step up if people wanted to go that route.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead, John.
I'm sorry. Excuse me, Vice Chair. So that gives me a better understanding, Commissioner, from work I've done in the past with other municipalities. I know that I can think of one or two organizations in particular that specifically deal with conflict resolution. So there might be some community or regional partners that we could get involved that are already doing this, that would provide that resource. And maybe we can delineate what, so the person comes in because they're having an issue with their neighbor's sign, or, you know, whatever. Maybe that could be something that we had the option, if there was things we could handle, non-fair housing related, in this particular example, non-fair housing related, some things that we could handle on the staff level, or we could have that referral as far as group agencies. I'm not sure how excited, say, the CVB would be about handling conflict resolution. I kid with Melody. I know Melody really well, but I do think there's some opportunities. So maybe and I guess let's also be mindful of our worksheet here. So maybe as we're filling in some of these areas for the initiative, timeline, success indicators, maybe we can form this, because I think there is an education piece here, just like with probably everything that we're going to talk about. So maybe the education here is to find out who is involved with this now, how accessible for High Point residents are the current things that are in place, and where would be the most likely or the most efficient places to put these resources in place for this training. I think I don't see a role, just with the way we're structured right now. I don't see a role in specifically for the commissioners training. Conflict resolution is a very that's a serious thing, you know, and so there are people who have gotten certification and have had classes, training. So it almost seems like we'd be passing out associate's degrees if we try to get our commissioners trained on training. So I think that but the idea of conflict resolution and maybe trying to formalize how we would make that available to our residents, and to what degree would staff, would the commission, would partnering agencies that are already doing that, how would they be involved in making that a more robust offering for the High Point community? I think those are things that we could probably easily formulate into our resource.
And as well, just to piggyback off what Jerron just mentioned, and to answer what I think was an earlier question by Commissioner McCray, when I was an fair housing investigator in Winston-Salem, we did receive conflict resolution training. There's actually an organization, the Association for Conflict Resolution, that some FAP agencies, along with a lot of different type of agencies, you know, conflict resolution can be used in a lot of different industries and areas. So you were at these seminars and training sessions with a lot of other folks, some in human resources and other areas of focus, to keep it, you know, such that it's anchored to one of our existing functions, or kind of within the scope of what we do. A way to maybe just for the commission to consider as you frame this out is that in a FAP context, there are some configurations in some municipalities where they're much like our Fair Housing Subcommittee. There are hearing boards that are subcommittees of the larger commission that do hear fair housing complaints. They serve as kind of a post-administrative, quasi-judicial body that if there is a cause finding in the fair housing world, that means that you found substantial evidence that discrimination occurred. The parties then can opt, they can choose to go in front of that hearing board for the case to be reviewed, the facts to be reviewed, and then that body will make a determination on whether they think that cause finding was correct. And so in that context, if that's a subset of the commissioners we have, there may be space where that kind of training could be helpful. So just to kind of bring it full circle, there may be space where that type of training may play a role in the FAP process. I know Commissioner McCray said, you know, I don't really know how we play a role in that FAP process, and that's not surprising. A lot of people don't fully understand that process. So as we flesh that out, we may identify additional areas where conflict resolution kind of plays into the first item we discussed. But that's just something for you to consider, some background information. Mr. Chair.
Well, you know, I'm not sure how it plays. Like, this is Dave, Chair for HRC. I'm not sure how it plays if we need, or, you know, in most cases, you know, to my knowledge, that, you know, for example, in counseling, we do need some sort of certification for us to be able to train others, or just to be able to just counsel them also. So I do not know about, you know, in the conflict resolution, we need that sort of certification or some sort of license, or, you know, anything. I'm not sure about it. So, but if there is not, I mean, you know, or if there is, with, you know, period of time, if we can get training and be able to do it with a small cost, or, you know, things like that, I definitely think this is pretty unique idea, and this would be useful. just to be in the commission and also inside and outside, dealing with, citizens or, events or anything that would come up in the future. And also this, like Mr. McCray said, this would be something that we can, we would be utilizing on, establishing FAP or, whatever we do in regards to that also. So I'm not sure. So if you would like to share, if we do need certification or if we need to do some research, I'm not sure about that. So, we can talk about it. We can do some research. But also my question would be to Commissioner McCray would be how we can position that into our work plan for now, having few things to do research. So back to you, Mr. McCray.
Sure. And this is Mr. McCray, and I can address kind of what Jeron's coming at. So my wife did actually train as a mediator, and I can agree that like it took a long time. So this is not a, we're going to go sit in a 3-hour seminar and then we're all trained conflict mediators. Like it is a pretty intense thing. And so I think maybe the better way to position it would be for me to take one step back and say that what I'm interested in this is that this was inspired by the Charlotte Mecklenburg Human Relations Commission directly, and they offer community relations conflict resolution training. And they specifically have a form that you can request free training for your group. It says it's available for youth, adults, groups, organizations, and that participants will learn the 5 conflict resolution styles, benefits of active listening, and tools to de-escalate difficult situations. I don't know how that training that they offer for free stacks up with, say, full mediator training. So I do not think, like I said, I know when my wife trained to be a mediator, I'm pretty sure it was a 5-day, full 40-hour seminar, and then like an additional 100 hours or whatever that you worked under a supervisor kind of thing. You know what I mean? So I'm not necessarily suggesting that we do that so much as what I am most interested in, and what maybe the goal could be, would be to find a way to offer such, rather more simplistic training to the community. And that could involve us as commissioners learning that. Again, to Mr. Hollis's point, I am very specific in thinking that we should not necessarily be the mediators of conflict, because that puts a lot of responsibility on us. But being able to share, being able to lead a 3 to 5 hour presentation to help just get like ideas out there, which sounds more like what they offer, I think would be valuable. But it also could be, to Mr. Hollis's point, could also be instead that we have engaged someone who is a professional who is able or willing to volunteer to offer such training when it's requested through the commission. There are a lot of other potential, avenues for us to accomplish the goal. To me, the goal in my mind would be able to offer this to groups as sponsored by the commission, whether that's us being trained ourselves or us having community connections where we could bring this in.
Okay, based on Jeron Hollis, communications, public engagement, based on what I'm hearing, Mr. Chair, are you prepared to receive at least a modified, and I'm about to volunteer you here, Mr. Biggs. Are you prepared to receive a modified staff recommendation based on what I think is being asked? Can we make a staff recommendation about next steps on this that would help us fill out this this template and give us some direction moving forward? Jelani, would you care to take a stab based on what you're hearing? Would you care to take a stab at that, and then I'll see if I can fill in any gaps?
Sure. So, just to make this actionable, I think I'm unmuted. Just to make this actionable, I'm wondering if, and Commissioner McCray, let me know if I moved too far off base of what you're trying to achieve. this just sounds like training, and much like our first item, training and gathering information to see how we may be able to offer this as a service via the commission. It seems to me there would need to be some initial training of general conflict resolution concepts for the commissioners, even if we were to offer this to the community. Am I on point with that?
Yeah, this is Mr. McCray. I think I can help shape this into 3 actionable goals that I think
Okay.
would be really helpful here. So I think the first would be that I think an easily actionable goal that I'd be happy to take on myself would be to let's contact Charlotte Mecklenburg's Human Relations Commission. They're meeting next Tuesday. And let's just ask them, hey, how is it that you offer this? Have you received training? If you've received training, what kind of training do you receive? Or is this a community partner? What is it that the process of this? I'm sure they'd be more than happy to share that with us. And I can make that a goal to research and share that at our next meeting. Step 2, I think, would be maybe perhaps on Mr. Hollis or Mr. Biggs, which would be, Mr. Hollis mentioned that he's aware of other agencies or whatnot that could provide such services. I think that if we could have a list of agencies and what they provide, if there's any associated costs, even have reached out to them and see if they'd be interested in volunteering, if that's a useful component, something like that, where it's like we are aware of what community resources we already have. And then the third step, it sounds like maybe as part of the FAP part, we would be interested as commissioners in receiving some conflict mediation training, which doesn't have to be a full certification. It could be a basic intro course like what Charlotte is offering. So it doesn't, and we can research like kind of what would that look like for us, because that's a nice actionable step for us to take regardless of where we fall on this particular initiative. Do those 3 goals sound like doable, actionable items?
Definitely, I believe so. I think those are concrete items that we can work towards as a commission. Staff can assist with generating contact with the Charlotte Mecklenburg Human Relations Commission, just to get and maybe report back to the commission on how they're implementing their program. One thing that came to mind earlier when this was being discussed, and this will be part of the asking them questions, is Charlotte and their Human Relations Commission and staff also are involved in a lot of community forums and events. I know they have a really robust police community review board. And so I don't know if some of what they're angling for on the conflict resolution training and offerings may be a branch off of that, but it'll be interesting to see how they're utilizing it in their community and how we can maybe modify it to use it here.
Let me also say, Jerron Hollis here, Communications, Public Engagement. I think for the commissioners that are like me that like to see some concrete steps and know that we're moving in the right direction of productivity. I think we're making great progress here. Let me say that to reassure those of us that are like that. But I think I want to encourage the group for these first 2 items. These are work plan items, but what these work plan items are plans and initiatives on specific topics, and that allow us to get more information to see how we can operate in those areas. And those are very valid work plan initiatives. So I think so far we've got, and I don't want to cut off debate or discussion on the floor here for that, but I think we have 2 very strong actionable pieces. What I would say is that with for us to avoid some of our sins of the past, I think it is important that we make sure that we're doing what we need to do between meetings, and that we take all the steps that we need to take to have whether it's subcommittee meetings, staff emails, because we don't want to be back here in April saying, well, whatever happened to that particular initiative or whatever happened to those ideas. So if we do what we're supposed to do between meetings, I think both these initiatives can provide us with a lot of great feedback on next steps. But we have to be vigilant to make sure we all do what we need to do as individuals and collectively.
Can I chime in on that note?
Sure.
This is Commissioner Clark, and just on another board that I serve on, we generally, I take the minutes on the secretary for that board, and usually we just have the to-do list or the action steps at the end of the minutes, and then we have them in another place with the name of the person who is planning to take the action step, and if there's a deadline, the deadline date to have that accomplished, I guess, before the next meeting or whatever. So that's just helpful just to stay on track with those action steps. I think it has been for us.
Great idea, and I think that's something that we should do for this conversation, and I think Tammy's listening.
I'm listening. I'm sorry. I'm listening. Yes.
So what Betsy said.
Yeah.
So basically, I loved Race had very clear action steps, and I think he volunteered for the first one, and maybe the office, Jelani and Jerron for the second. So, and then the third would really follow those first two steps, I think, after the information was.
So can I kind of recap what Ray said, maybe Commissioner McCray said? He said his first goal for this conflict resolution would be to contact the Mecklenburg Human Relations Commission to see how training is offered, and that too would be the staff would take care of initiating contact with Mecklenburg County and then get back with the commission at the next regular scheduled meeting. And then the second goal was to have a list of agencies and cost with interest in the volunteering for this particular conflict resolution. And then thirdly, as it involves the Fair Housing Assistance Program, to get basic an introductory course in conflict resolution training. That's basically what Commissioner McCray was, a snapshot of what he was saying. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
And just so that it's even clearer, I also emailed just now Tammy, Jerron, and Jelani a link to the Charlotte Mecklenburg website,
Okay.
and I'm happy to provide it for anyone else. But that way, I know that way it can be sent out to all the commissioners. If you want to see what they're doing, I specifically sent a link so that it could be included in the minutes if need be, or shared out to the commissioners as a whole.
Okay.
I think this is the chair for the HRC. If just wanted to check and see with Mr. McCray if we pretty much covered, I think, action plans and everything. I think is that okay if we transition to youth homework assistance program?
Well, Mr. Chair, if I may, really quickly, just taking a look at our agenda for today, I do have a break built in. I know 4 hours is a long time.
Yeah.
If Ryan can hear me, I do think we're going to press pause for 10 minutes. Everyone can plan to return 10 minutes from now, so 11:10.
Sure.
We'll plan to come back. So everyone stretch their legs and get the coffee. And we'll see you in a little bit.
I'll only add that, yes, I'm ready to move on. I feel like it's resolved this. Yeah, and we'll see you in 10 minutes.
See you.
Thank you. I think we're at 11:10. If everyone's back, just turn your camera on. That way we know that you are here.
And Jelani, this is Kim. Just a reminder, I need to leave early for a previous commitment that I had told you about. So
Sure. Thanks for
I will disappear after a while.
And Mr. Chair, I think we have everyone back, and I think we did reach a stopping point on the first two items. So if you want to move on.
Sure, we can go ahead and move on to our next item that we have over here, Youth Homework Assistance Program. So the floor is open.
I'll get us started. I'm sorry, Mr. Chair. If I may, just Jelani Biggs, Human Relations Manager. I'll get us started on this one. I think I was the one that kind of planted the seed on this one, and I want you guys to kind of run with it. And there was a program that I was a part of, especially pre-COVID, through my church. We called Homework Hangout. And it had some elements to it that I thought if we applied it to the city and some of the functions that we have here, it could be a really good, impactful program. We took members from the church and went to a owned property within the city of Winston-Salem that also had a community center on site. So we had a place where the youth, they were in that large community, could meet us in the evening and do their homework. A couple of things I realized in doing it, it's a simple concept, not complex at all, but the relationship development portion of it, the anchoring reason why you're there is to complete homework, which is a task in and of itself. But what you realize is you begin to develop relationships with the kids. They get to know you. You get to know them. They start bringing their younger brothers, older sisters to the homework sessions. You even get to know the parents. And you get to know some of the things that they go through, some of the things they face on a daily basis. You become intimately involved in some of the challenges they face, in addition to helping them with their homework, helping them get it done. And over time, that relationship impacts them, and it also impacts you. So, bringing that to a High Point perspective and through a city function is, I was thinking this may be a concept we could also use with the High Point Police Department, maybe fire department, commissioners, and human relations staff, and trying to help develop more positive relationships with some of our first responders and law enforcement and these youth. It takes away only seeing one another in moments where things may not be going well, but we're actually engaging in a positive moment. And the anchoring function there is that we're there to help kids do their homework and build relationships at the same time. One thing, just a logistical matter that I ran into myself, I don't go past middle school math. And so that can kind of control the age group that you may want to have attend these homework hangout sessions. The tutoring portion of it is limited by your ability to assist with the work. So you just want to keep that in mind. If anybody else has any other concepts, ideas, of course, the biggie in the room is COVID. My concept, I think, is really dependent on in-person contact. I think that's the only way the true point of the program really gets across. But if anybody else has any ideas, Mr. Chair, feel free to open up the floor.
Sure. This is Dave Bandari, Chair for HRC High Point. And talking about, in person, that was my question. How are we prepared, or what would be the precautions that we're going to be doing, or we're going to have in place, just to make sure that no one is exposed, or everyone is safe and secure, that we're not even whoever is providing and whoever is receiving services is not exposed or not at any kind of risk? Do we have any precautions on COVID? And how, if you have any, do you have anything in mind that how we're going to be providing that in person, keeping that in mind, that, COVID restrictions and everything?
Yeah, that's a great question, Dev. I think when I originally brought this up, this is actually a long time ago, actually pre-COVID. This has been a carryover item. So I think that now that we're in the midst of it, this may, if it's the will of the commission, be an item that we plan for the future. Maybe we engage the police department. Maybe we do site selection, whether it's Macedonia Family Resource Center. Maybe we can find a housing authority property that has an on-site community center like in Winston-Salem. Or we start now with a virtual model. Again, I would open up for the commission to give feedback on that, but that was just one of the many ideas that maybe we could achieve this concept. But yeah.
This is Kim, and I do have to leave about 11:30, so I did want to talk on this one because I can be really passionate about this topic. But given the time frame that we're in, hopefully by the start of the new school year in September, we'll have more vaccine, more herd immunity or whatever. But it's going to take some time to really get this set up and get this structure in place so that it runs smoothly. Like Jelani said, there's a lot of contacts that we need to make. The structure needs to be put in place. That is going to take some time. So I don't think this is something we can say we're going to do tomorrow. So we have, from now until September to get all that structure in place, and hopefully school will start semi-normally, we can hope. And if not, we can always have that back end virtual option in place and thought of when we start in September. That would be my mindset in getting this set up. Use this first 3 quarters of the year to get the connections made, the structure set up, have a virtual option in place, and then start it in September. That would be my recommendation.
This is Commissioner Clark.
I'd just like to remind the group that, go ahead. Go ahead.
Did you say go ahead to me? Okay. I was actually involved also in a homework assistance program here in High Point. It's been 2 or 3 years, maybe even 4. And it was I think it was at a church, community center type place off of Phillips Avenue. I'd have to try to remember exactly where it was, but it was something that we used, I think, the basement area of the church, and adults from the community would go in and just do exactly that, assist children in the community with homework. So I wonder I don't know if that's something that we could look at that location. And again, I would need to figure out how to, because it's been a few years and I can't remember exactly where it was, but it was some church, I think on maybe Phillips Avenue. I know they also help with some sort of food assistance. That wasn't a part that I was involved in. Well, I was somewhat, but so maybe that's a location we could consider for future, for the future school year.
Well, and this is Kim, and that's even another step, right? Is explore what is already out there, because that may be still going on, and understand what structure is out there, because there's that whole communication component. If there's sufficient out there, we just have a communication piece that we would probably need to do as opposed to putting the structure together.
Commissioner Clark, was that the one that HPU offered?
Actually, I think it was. I think that it was related to HPU, because I think there were students that would come and help with that.
It probably was Green Street Baptist Church.
Yes. Thank you, Ms. Sanders. Yes, I've also been, that's what I was going to bring up, because I've also been involved with them. And I do know the organizers behind that program. And because I've done some writing seminars for them, since that's my background is as a writing teacher.
Mr. Chair, Jerron Hollis, Communications, Public Engagement. I think there is a unique aspect of this. There is a nuance with the program that Mr. Biggs pointed out. In addition to providing homework assistance, which is what I guess part of the bottom line. I think one of the positive outgrowths of this, imagining, for example, to go with the model that, correct me if I'm wrong, Jelani and Winston, we would also have members of our law enforcement there interacting with parts of the community in a way that they normally wouldn't. So I think so while there are, to Commissioner Barker's point, there are and I know that in with what you do, Race, you see a lot of tutors and a lot of programs. This has a unique aspect that could probably feed into some things that are already there, but it would also have a unique aspect because we're doing multiple things. We're helping with homework, but I think the one of the takeaways here is the building of the relationships with areas of the community that normally don't intersect in this way. So I think there's some unique opportunities here. But if there's a list, if there are needs, if there are neighborhoods, what I was going to say earlier is that one thing that we've seen with COVID, although the pandemic has had a terrible toll on a lot of things, and it's still here just as much as it's ever been, unfortunately. One thing that we have seen in the public and also in the private sector, it's been a time of innovation, and people have found ways to do interesting things out of necessity, but it also gives you some time to kind of take a step back and plan. So I don't want us to consider this 6-month period in whatever capacity we find ourselves with COVID. I think that there is a great opportunity for us to do some of the back end planning, to have some of the conversations, so that once we can, dare I say, take our masks off and go and engage, like we return our seats to their upright positions, right? I think once we do that, we could already have a lot of the framework in place and not have to start some of those conversations where we just be waiting on things that are beyond our control to come back into play. So let's not squander this time and sound like a broken record. It is completely acceptable and productive to say that where we are in January is that we are working on the foundation and the framework for 3 or 4 really huge things, and this is phase 1. So don't think that because we don't walk out at the end of the month with a finished program and hundreds of people in one location that we haven't been doing anything. We're doing some important necessary work now, and some of these initiatives that come to fruition will be the result of some of the work that we've done in the planning and the setup and the ideas. So this is all really positive, but specifically to the homework hangout, I think there are some unique aspects, and we've got I know we have willing participants and people that are in our law enforcement, and I think there are probably a number of ways law enforcement or maybe other key demographics from our organization. So I think there's some great things here, and we can probably use some of the resources and networks that are already in place to either enhance this or make it that much better.
This is Dave Bandari, Chair, HRC. I just wanted to add on the same topic. I think this is already unique that we're bringing different departments in. And also, I think we briefly touched on this topic last year, that it is not only about helping those kids with the homework, but also this has potential to understand the diverse community better. I mean, they would bring up, come with their stories, and then see if there is an opportunity for us to provide them or lead them to any resources. And, it could be very simple and it could be major. Start maybe with, simple, maybe someone alcohol or cigarette, that kind of problem with the younger generation, but also it could be domestic violence in their family, or something going on in their family household. And there is a potential that we can reach out to the family and provide that support and assistance that we already trying to do. So I think this has potential. So I'm all for it. I think this is great idea, and I think we should work on this one.
Hey, this is Vice Chair Davis, Willie Davis. I really like Jelani suggestion, but I was also thinking that if we were able to get our student ambassador going, I think it would be something that could be great for them to help participate with student homework. I think that would be a great idea for them also, to get them involved in this committee. Back to you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. And I just also wanted to add, and I was thinking about this. I am still, but right now it is discontinued. But we had after school homework assistance program with the Bhutanese community in High Point. It was by Southman Walmart, by the raceway, by the gas station to be. So it was around there. So we did that, and also we provided free citizenship classes, and also just gathering on if there is anything going on in their family. For example, if someone is having trouble or because of the language barrier, if they're having trouble to pay their bills or having to translate that, we were just casual conversation when we were doing citizenship classes also. So but we were just few of us, we were volunteering with, including Guilford College and UNCG students and professors actually, and community members. And we never, we did not have fire department or police department or commissioners involved. So I think we can carry on that one. Also, I do see potential on this one. Just wanted to add that.
And Mr. Chair, if I may, much like the last item that we discussed, I do envision there needing to be staff, a good level of staff support to executing something like this. So I think it would be appropriate to expect that staff would reach out to the police department, fire department, anybody else that we identified may be important stakeholders, and bringing this concept to them, getting their feedback on it. Due to the nature of the program, I do anticipate that we'll get a positive response. But some of that in-between work, even help, and this could be staff and commission, is appropriate site selection, maybe finding a good place or multiple places where we could host something like this as we plan this out for the future.
Yeah, I also think we need to include universities, just because they do have resources and they already would have something in place, like brother, sister, or something like that. They would already have, and they would be be involved with. And I do know that honor scholars at Guilford College and few at the UNCG, I do know professors, and they would be more than happy to be involved and support any diverse community or High Point community in large. So I can reach out to them.
And this is Kim in high schools as well, because depending upon what the student wants to graduate with, what medallion or whatever they have, they need to do so many hours of yeah, you know what I mean. And so this would be a great way, and they are current with the math. Yes. That maybe some of the rest of us don't want to be involved with.
Yes, I agree.
It's an important point, Kim. Another thing I would also, and this is a little bit into the details, into the weeds. Another thing that we do want to be cognizant of, and I think that staff can assist with organizing this, are the resources you actually bring. I don't think we should assume that a lot of these children or youth will show up with work to be done. So it may just be planning and bringing exercises and things they can do and planning activities for them to do. So if we do have children that come that don't have their homework with them, that we can give them something to do.
Based on, this is Commissioner McCray. Based on what I'm hearing, I think a good proposal that kind of summarizing hopefully what people are saying is that I think it's a great goal for us maybe to be prepared to launch this program in September, and to say that is a stated goal with the caveat that let's take a thermometer in August and see like how safe is this to launch. But that like if we establish a September deadline is when we hope to be able to do this, then if vaccinations and COVID have cleared up enough that it's safe, we would be prepared for it. And I think that we can make all sorts of, using that earlier spreadsheet, I think that we can also make a lot of sub goals. It sounds like an initial sub goal that would be an important part is to maybe get in touch with some key stakeholders. Like I said, the HPU is already doing it at Green Street Baptist. The Boys and Girls Club is already doing it in some fashion here, and say, where are they? And maybe they even have a suggestion of, here's an area where we know we're not reaching yet, like an area of town, for example, or a specific group where they can say, yeah, if we had more resources, this is what we would do. And we can say, well, great, then there's where we want to slide this in. Is Southwest High Point just not getting the resources for some reason? I mean, I'm picking a random area, so I don't know anything, but that would be a good way to kind of identify that would help us narrow site selection and also learn from them. And that seems like a good goal to have, either at our next meeting or the meeting beyond. I don't know how long that would take, where we can just say we've established parameters for a next step to reach out to folks and narrow this scope of this to something that's doable where we can set further goals. I don't know if we want to set further goals today, site selection, materials, things like that. But that I think those are two initial goals that are really good. One, to launch by September, and two, or be prepared to launch by September, and two, to reach out to community stakeholders already as an initial progress meter.
And this is Kim Race. I really liked what you said about collecting the learnings that they have, because we may be able to avoid pitfalls that they went down by, asking them, if you could start from scratch, without any of your pitfalls, what would you do?
I think Mrs. Iqbal is speaking, but you are mute right now. So just please unmute and.
Okay, sorry. This is Commissioner Iqbal. So my thought is suppose in September, when we want to start this up and we are still under the pandemic and we are still having to wear masks, what my suggestion would be is of course, we would have to be limited to a certain number of students, but before anyone was to enter, we would need to probably take temperatures, have a thermometer, take the temperatures as people come in, as the kids come in. Also have enough sanitizer and wipes and things of this nature to keep everyone safe, to keep the kids safe, also to keep us safe, and just take all the necessary steps to keep everyone safe. I really, really am interested in this program, and I think that is a great idea.
Thank you, Mrs. Iqbal. And I would like to check and see if anybody would like to, any commissioners or staff would like to add anything on this topic. I know we discussed briefly about it, and I'm just trying to check and see if there's any insight or anything you would like to add on it.
I wouldn't, but I've got to leave. Bye. Thank you. I look forward to seeing you all next month.
Take care.
This is Commissioner Price. I think these are some really great ideas. But as far as if we're gonna be doing things that are in person, I believe it's a great idea to keep in mind, just the regulations that's going on with COVID-19. As long as everyone is wearing masks and we're enforcing the 6-foot social distance rule to keep everyone safe.
This Commissioner Stacy Jones. So as we're preparing for September launch, to have a virtual option, I think is key, even if we have to start out with that and then transition. I'm not sure if we can maybe partner with Guilford County Schools in some kind of way. I know that they're given, with the virtual option, obviously the children will need to have a laptop or computer. And we know that this year we have a lot of children within Guilford County Schools that don't have laptops or internet. Hopefully by the time fall hits, I know that they're getting I got a voicemail indicating that laptops are being delivered over the next couple of weeks. So by September, every child should have one and hopefully have access to the internet. I don't know. I know on those devices, there's some limitations on where the kids can go and what they can access. So if we decide to do a virtual option, I think we would possibly need to connect with Guilford County Schools to say, hey, this is the platform we want to use. Can you allow that on the laptops for us to connect with the children? I'm not sure what that would look like. I would hope that they will be open to partnering, because there are some educational gaps that happened this year because of this transition. So anything to help close those gaps would be, hopefully welcomed.
Can I say something? This is Commissioner Clark. So I agree with Stacy. Just in having homeschooled my children for about 16 years and taught some school classes myself, I think having the virtual option is necessary, because just when you're helping someone with homework, to have a 6-foot distance just isn't feasible, just because you need to be beside the child, seeing what they're seeing, what they're doing, and what they need help with. So I think having that virtual option is important in place if by the time we launch this, we're not able to be together, close with them.
I think this is Commissioner McCray. I think Commissioner Jones is exactly right. I think that absolutely should be a part of it, of laying the groundwork for a digital option is essential right now. I also want to point out that I think that a great contact for this, for exploring what the schools can do, just to build on what Ms. Jones was saying, would be the school media specialists. They're often really in touch with what the capabilities of their students are, and also what kind of resources they have, both technologically and academically, and also often even know kind of who could most benefit from this program and can get that information into their hands. They're usually centrally kind of networked with all the teachers in a way that can help them identify students and say, if they can't, for example, get internet at home, they might be able to say, well, this student could meet in my library where I have and I don't mean mine, I mean the media specialist's library, where that person has internet, computer, and they can kind of serve as a adult, in the room while whatever tutor is assisting them.
This is Commissioner Price. I think that's a great idea.
This is Councilman Tyrone Johnson, and I tell you, just sitting here listening. And when we talk about a great initiative for our community and assisting or helping our future leaders, our leaders of today, our leaders of tomorrow, this is a great initiative to get going on. And of course, we do have our challenges with the pandemic, and if it's still lingering around here, obviously in September, that time frame, obviously, some people are not going to feel comfortable with even bringing their kids out there. However, and also keep in mind that everybody does not have have transportation to bring their kids, and so definitely, I love the option of doing it virtually. So, great thought.
Just to really quickly, Mr. Chair, just to piggyback off of what Councilmember Johnson just mentioned, transportation is a big consideration when we're looking at site selection. I think one of the reasons why it's been so successful in Winston-Salem is that it is at that community center that's on the site of where the kids live. So we're usually actually going up into the neighborhood, and once the kids get to know you, they run to you and you tell them to go get their homework, and then you walk down. So we'll have to figure out what that looks like for High Point, and making sure that transportation and the site itself is not a barrier to accessing this program, to make it as convenient as possible. But that's definitely something we can explore.
This is Commissioner Price. This is just an idea. Say, we just didn't have one site because, High Point is a big city. Say we had a couple sites and, a couple of school districts that will make it a lot easier for people in that area to transport there. Even, if they don't have transportation, it would be walking distance. Instead of having, it at one place, it would make it a lot harder for someone on the other side of the city to get there. You get where I'm coming from?
No, Commissioner Price, I think you make a great point. The only thing that I think would be a limitation there is managing the sites and having the resources to do so. But your point is taken that being flexible with sites, even if, if we, I don't know, did quarterly sessions, bi-monthly sessions, we chose different places to do it at different occasions. So that's something to consider. And I think that's something that can be framed out, again, to have the most impact, being flexible with the sites, and making sure that the program is the most accessible it can be, is something to consider.
Sure. This is Dave, Chair. I think that's a really good point because, we do want to provide service to the larger, community. So I think we can consider having not only, consistently at one location, but we can reach out to the quite, few locations. And, we do the same exact thing, but at the different locations every month, or like Jelani said, offer same service, but maybe bi-weekly or, rotational basis if we do have one or two. So I think that's really great point to be considered.
This is Commissioner Clark. I love that idea also, Commissioner Price, trying to cover the areas that have the most need and be able to reach as many as possible. And I think identifying the people who are already doing it and the locations, and hopefully finding out where the greatest need is will help with that, so that we're not like double crossing or, doubling up on what's already being done, but reaching areas that really have the most need.
I think
Yep.
You can go ahead.
No, I think you're doing it. I was going to ask you if you were ready to move to the next item.
Yes, that is, yes. I think we covered, you know, pretty much in detail on that topic. And then if it is okay with everyone, we can move on to the next topic for the work plan, Directory of Helper/Community Assistance Organizations. So floor is open for the discussion.
Well, before we move on, I just want to say, like, just to reiterate where we landed, it sounds like the next step, this is Commissioner McCray, sorry, Ms. Sanders. I just want to reiterate, it sounds like where we landed is that an initial action step is to do research to reach out to stakeholders. I don't know, do we want to set a deadline for when that should be achieved? Because it seems like that's the initial thing that we all agree is an essential component of this. And I don't want that to get lost in kind of a nebulous, sure, we'll contact them at some point.
This is Jerron Hollis, Communications, Public Engagement. Did you have any suggestions, Commissioner McCray, of what a deadline would look like? When would you, what would you suggest?
I think that when I initially suggested as an action step, it was either by next meeting or by the subsequent meeting. I think since we have a number of things that we might be talking at our next meeting, which would be the February meeting, it probably would be best to say, let's reach out by March, by our March meeting. And that would just be because I know we're already talking about a couple other things. I don't want it to overload, but I also don't want it to get lost. Whenever you put out something out 2 meetings, you say, okay, I'll do that. And then you do it the week before you do it. So I think that it would be something that maybe we want to check in on, but that I think 2 meetings from now would be a good deadline as a reaching out to stakeholders and better understanding the landscape. And I don't know if anyone wants to, I don't know if we want to assign that to someone today, or if someone wants to volunteer to do that, or if that's based on the staff of either you or Mr. Biggs, or if that would be something we want to delay until our next meeting to assign that to someone. But I do think that should be, again, something that maybe gets, someone wants to take up the mantle for that.
Well, I think it is important. You make a great point. I think it is important that we, with each of these, including this one, that we do assign some tangible next steps so that it doesn't get washed away or lost. So, and I would go back to the wisdom of what we were saying at the very beginning of the meeting, drilling down to a handful of impactful and important initiatives, so that we don't end up spending a lot of time on doing a dozen things reasonably well. We can do 4 very well. So I think that the timeline you suggested, I think, is doable. And from a staff standpoint, we're capable to do our part and help the other pieces kind of fit together with the commissioners.
So in addition to that, I would be more than happy to, I can definitely reach out to UNCG and Guilford College, just because we have done in the past and we have worked together during the COVID process also. So I can reach out to them and then, see what they would say, and then their time commitment. And then we can just have their information for now. And then once we put everything together, we can have them on schedule that this day you're going to be covering, that kind of thing. So I would do that on my side.
So this is Commissioner McCray. So what I'm hearing, unless there's any objection from another commissioner or from the chair, Mr. Bhandari, it sounds like a March deadline for this at our March meeting would be a good deadline for reaching out and understanding the stakeholders. I think that's also helpful since we are potentially communicating with colleges. This is the start of their semester. The first month might actually be harder than second or third month. I just know professors' schedules tend to be very busy when they're starting classes. So that might be another thing. And since we're doing this by September, we have a little more time and flexibility on this. So it sounds like March would be the appropriate deadline for reaching out and contacting stakeholders.
I would think so, yes.
maybe as a sub goal that could be an action item at our next meeting, just as a checkup, could be a very quick way for us to identify the stakeholders that we're reaching out to at our next meeting. Mr. Bhandari, you already have some ideas, but I know that Commissioner Clark and I both have potential connections at the Green Street. I don't know if other commissioners have said, maybe their own connections, but maybe that can be something just at our next meeting. We very quickly identify these are the stakeholders we're reaching out to. That might only take 5 minutes in a meeting, but it sounds like maybe we could research that between now and then, and then by Wednesday or by March, we will have actually reached out to them.
Sure. I think we are ready to move into next one. So that is the last bullet point that we have over here from the email that Jelani has sent last time. And I'm sure everyone has that one here. Curate Directory of Helpers / Community Assistance Organizations. So floor is open for discussion and any insights and ideas.
What was that again? You said health and communication?
That is the last point that was in the email. That is curate Directory of Helpers / Community Assistance Organizations.
Oh, okay. I thought you said, okay. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think Ms. Barker had brought that up. Jelani, correct me if I'm wrong. I think that was Ms. Barker was talking about getting ideas from different organizations, I believe it was, to maybe we could partner with or find out who we can help, how we can help engage in other organizations. Is that correct? Is that what that is about?
I believe so. It was Commissioner Barker, and correct me if I'm wrong, Commissioner McCray. I think you helped develop that idea as well. I could be wrong, but yeah.
Sure. This is Commissioner McCray. I can talk briefly about it, what I recall, because I believe it was Commissioner Barker's idea. But the basic idea, as I recall, was for us to develop a list of organizations in the area that is doing work. So it'd be basically like, if you need food assistance, just a little line on an Excel sheet or a Google Doc or whatever it is that you can quickly see, okay, Greater High Point Food Alliance is doing this work. Open Door Ministries is doing this work, et cetera, et cetera. This would be both something that we as commissioners and the greater community would be able to submit to, though it would be curated, so it wouldn't be an open source where anyone can write anything, but that it would be something that we could kind of curate that just so it's available, say on the city website, I think was the idea, where if someone is running into an issue that they think they need some help addressing, they could find it an easily accessible list that just says, oh, this church in my neighborhood is offering assistance with this thing. I'm going to, contact them, and would have a contact list with them. I don't know that there were any sub goals or anything discussed at our last meeting. So I think that was the nature of the project, was just develop a list that would be accessible to the public, that we could then, direct people to as need arises.
This is Vice Chair Willie Davis. I think that's a great idea because it takes me back to when I first started getting involved with doing different boards. I worked with a board called Project Board Development, and which it taught us how to interact with different groups and how things go. We did a study with that. We did a simulation with people will come in, be unemployed, and if you know where to go, it can really help you a whole lot on getting the right kind of help or treatment. If you need help for food, or if you needed help with clothing or things like that. So I really think that's a great idea if we could come up with something like that to help citizens, and it might cut down on us running back and forth trying to find out ourselves, because a lot of us might not know that you might go to urban ministry or you can go to Red Cross here for different things. So I think that would be a great idea.
This is Commissioner Clark. I love this idea because I'm an information person. I love to find information, help people be connected with information that can be helpful to them. So I love the idea of having a page on our city website that will offer resources within our community that can be helpful. And I guess just identifying the specific, whoever writes the web page, just identifying specific needs like food needs, shelter needs, clothing needs, and then being able to list the organizations in our city that that can help. I love that, because having that at people's fingertips would be, I think, so helpful. So I'm excited about this project.
This is Dave, Chair for HRC. I just wanted to add, I don't know if IDEA is similar to highpointresources.org, because I'm pulling up that one because I remember this website because in the very beginning, like in May or April, May, June, July, during that period of time, I was looking for all those resources just to post on my Facebook, and also to be able to send to the different people when they call me, where is all this distribution and everything going on. So this was pretty helpful, by then. Still, I see it over here that where they can go for the local resources. It does not have like list of all the organizations that is distributing or all the name of the churches. Like I can tell Councilman Johnson's church and few others, they've been actively doing distributions, and quite often also. So I did not see all the list of organizations and everything, but this is one of the resource pages that I have been to. I've been utilizing this one. So this is, maybe we can add on it, or if IDEA is similar to this one, I do not know if we need another page or if we just need to add a few more organizations to this one that they are, providing that services. Just my say on that topic, because we do have that page right now on the city website, and then I have used in the past. And also city does have list of all the organizations, not maybe organizations, but the churches, and then different places, drive up, food drive, that kind of thing, pretty often posted on the Facebook page also. So just wanted to share that.
Dev, what is that website? I'm trying to find it, and I'm seeing like a Colorado website and other things pop up. What is the name of the High Point Resources website?
It's literally, this is Commissioner McCray. It's literally spell out highpointresources.org.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
And
thank you.
It'll come right up. And I'll just add some quick information about this, specifically for Tammy. This is a page created by and run by the Hayden Harmon Foundation. And it is, so that's run by a local nonprofit, and it does have some great resources on exactly what we're talking about: food resources, public transit, unemployment. Certainly, it sounds like this did not come up at our last meeting. I don't know if Kim was aware of this. I don't know if any of the other commissioners were aware of it. It sounds like this is kind of new to most of us, including me. But it does seem like this kind of does a lot of the work that we were thinking about. And so maybe the question for us should be, if this exists, I have two questions for us. One, is it worth pursuing this, or is there a way to augment this? And two, does it matter for us that this is not a city page? And I specifically only mentioned that because one of the things about working for the city and being a commission for the city is, as we just talked in the 101, is like the lack of appearance of bias. And so for us to like endorse a specific nonprofit page and hand that out may itself be a problem. I don't know if Jelani or Jaron want to weigh in on that. You know, I don't know that we could like post it on the city's Facebook, for example.
Yeah, I think, and that's a good point, Commissioner McCray. Jaron Hollis here, Communications Public Engagement. I think that when we start talking about agencies that are trying to do things to help the community, we can easily get into a point where it becomes where do we cut that off? You know, if we constantly get requests for people to connect or add things to our website, but to your point, we generally, if there's an agency where there is a sponsorship or that we're collaborating on something, there's some due diligence that we have to do. I mean, I think most people in the community are familiar with the Hayden Harmon Foundation, but I think that, to your point, what we're seeing here with many of these items is at the point where we're duplicating efforts. I think it might be, as a way to kind of move forward, I think it might be good to have a conversation with Patrick as far as what they have on that site and what are some things where they need assistance. What are some things where we can help them, to use your term, Commissioner McCray, augment what's on there so that it can be effective. But I'm not sure, I think you pointed out, that is not a City of High Point page. It's a very useful, very, very helpful page. It's all about policy with us. So if we did say we were going to have on a city webpage list certain resources, we just have to think about what that looks like. What would be the criteria? Are they resources that are available to everyone? Does it have to be a nonprofit? No advertising on that page, you know, events. I mean, so there's some things there. But I think for the purposes of this dialogue, I think there are some agencies out there that are providing this information, and might be one of those things of where can we fill in those gaps, and that can look like a number of different things. I don't think if there were specific agencies, if we wanted to develop a process and say, hey, if there needs to be some type of sponsorship arrangement, we can have those conversations individually, because I don't see anybody jumping up and down and saying, hey, why is the city providing resources to help people? You know, I don't think that would be a controversial area, but I do see some value in having some conversations with the people that are doing it, seeing what they're able to do and how we can be of assistance. And it might be us continuing to spread the word, to open up to some, reach out to some areas in our spheres of influence where maybe the foundation can't. You mentioned churches, community groups. There are probably things that each of you are aware of or active in doing that help people that might not be on this page. So we can become that resource, the commissioners, staff, in addition to those resources that are listed on that page.
This is Councilman Tyrone Johnson. I honestly, and I've been sitting here looking for it, I honestly thought we had something already, especially like when someone needed assistance with their electric bill. And I've seen that. I cannot find it right now because I'm looking for it. When I'm not looking for it, I'll end up finding it. And it listed various organizations that could assist our citizens with their light bill.
Yeah.
And I can't remember if there was in regards to the food banks or anything like that on there, but
Council Member Johnson, I think
yes.
Our producer on this meeting is our marketing manager. I I think he's a disembodied voice now. He can probably send messages, but I don't know if his mic is connected here. But we'll find out where that is on the page. I know for utility assistance, if I'm not mistaken, I would think that would be on the customer service page or a separate tab. But we'll find out exactly where those resource areas are mapped on our website, and we'll share that with the group as soon as we can. If you're listening out there, Ryan, thank you.
Thank you. But that's what we're talking in reference to. Am I correct? Something of that nature that lists a lot of services that our citizens may know about or may not know about. Is that correct?
Jelani, I think you were about to make a point.
I was muted. The only Jelani Biggs, Human Relations Manager. The only thing I was going to add, Councilmember Johnson, even within the city structure, there is some overlap of that information housed on various divisions and departments pages. So even for the Human Relations Division, there is a community resource page that may have some of that information. It still goes back to the point that Commissioner McCray brought up earlier and that Jerron mentioned, is that do we want to curate a list of organizations that kind of brings that all together and may expand upon what's already out there that we already see? So I think the point's valid.
Commissioner.
Absolutely, I agree with that.
Commissioner Clark, speaking to what Mr. Hollis said regarding whether or not the city would endorse a specific organization or whatever, and the process that would need to happen to make sure that's okay or whatever. Is it possible to have, I guess, just a disclaimer on that page that says these resources are not City of High Point resources, but they are resources within our community that are for, community members in High Point? I don't know. Just to have a disclaimer to not have those extra red tape type things to go through.
You make a great point, Commissioner Clark. We will we'll make a note of that and talk to legal and see what things we can do, because we don't want people to miss out on information because of like you just said, red tape. So that's a good point. We'll look into that and see how we can just objectively post information and what that would look like. But that's a good point. We'll look into it. Thank you.
And Commissioner Jones, as I'm looking at this highpointresources.org page, on the About page, it has the City of High Point's logo on there. And I don't know if they can just do that or if that had to have been approved by the city to say, yeah, we're a partner. I'm not quite sure how that works, but it does send a message as if we support it. Just something that I noticed.
Yeah, we have in the past. I think the that foundation, we've had partnerships with them before, and with other agencies. It's usually on a project by project or case by case kind of thing. So I wouldn't be surprised if that was an initiative. I'm not sure what year that page was put up. I wish Patrick was here to weigh in, but I'm certain that we have partnered with them, and I wouldn't be surprised if they helped with if they helped us or we helped them with a piece of that. They're active partners, and I think we partner with them on this particular initiative. I think they built that during the time we started COVID, so I think that's a COVID related. Thank you, Ryan. I think that's a COVID related initiative, if I'm thinking about the same one that you're looking at. So yeah, we were partnering on that because I think the COVID pandemic had really helped people understand that there were people in need that weren't connected to some of the things that would help their situation. So I think that was a COVID initiative from last year. But but we are partnering with them or co-sponsors, I'll say, with that. Partnering is that's a different word, but yeah. So there's some sponsorship overlap there. So the city is fully endorsing what you see on that page, helping people, residents, and that nature.
And it looks like they're keeping it up to date because on, the homepage, the first thing it talks about is Guilford County Schools update that happened January 12th. So it looks like somebody is keeping it current, which is a great thing.
Excuse me, this is Vice Chair Willie Davis. This is for Stacy. You said that is you says High Point Resource, that website. What's that website again?
It's highpointresources.org.
Okay.
.org. Yeah, highpointresources.org.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You are very welcome, Mr. Davis. And I think what would be the actionable items or, segue to our work plan on this topic?
What about emailing, I guess, the office and Tammy, the resources that we are aware of, maybe to kind of get a list started, and then not necessarily putting it up right away, but maybe talking about that at the next meeting, about what resources we know of already. Just sharing, combining our knowledge of resources.
I think that's a good point. I guess, Mr. Chair, a question to the commission. This sounds like at this point, sounds like a more of a housekeeping item. Mm-hmm. I don't know that this is a separate initiative. I don't even, are we sure that this even needs to be a work plan item? I mean, based on the information that we have here, there's an existing site where there's already sponsorship connections. I'm not sure what we could do to move the needle in an official capacity, but this definitely sounds like something worth further research and connects. But maybe it's not a work plan item. I'm just thinking out loud that it's already listed on the city's website. There are resources that are there. It's kept updated. I'm getting some information here. If you go on the city's webpage, there's a tab that you click down that says I want to, and it's usually find more out about. So it's on there. So this might be something definitely that we need to keep an eye on and support, but it might not be a work plan item because there's really not much, in my mind, it's not much that we can do that is a unique and specific item like we talked about before. Does that make sense? Or anybody have any feedback on that, Mr. Chair?
No, I'm open to discussing on that one and see what everybody would think about it. And I do agree with you because we do have, we do have existing similar website also. I'm pulling a few over here. And also within City of High Point Pierce, also there is community resource, coronavirus community resource guide over here. And then we do have a list of different places within Guilford County and other county that where they can get support. So, it is open to all the commissioners if we consider this being on this one, or we want to reconsider this topic for work plan item. So it is, I'm open to discussing and sure.
Hi, this is Commissioner Jones. I definitely don't want us to duplicate efforts if it's already done. Maybe if we can just, as Mr. Hollis was saying, is more of an administrative cleanup thing, and maybe identifying the resources that are already there and maybe putting that link on our page so that there is a place to go and you can click here to go to the highpointnc.org resources page or whatever it is. Just pulling those links together, putting it on the page, and they can go to those websites that are already developed. If legally we can do that.
And thank you, Commissioner Jones. I think from what I understand, as I'm getting some messages in as we speak, I think this link already exists in a few places on the city website currently. Our website is massive, so sometimes it can take a while to inventory everything that's on there. But I think this is already on our page. So yeah, so I think that link is on the city homepage, if you click on I want to, I think it gives community resource, COVID, what have you. I think it's there. So I think we have it already. That was part of my earlier point. I think a lot of this we're already doing, but not to say that we can't refine something or, do an occasional social media post. I mean, there's always things that we can do to refine it, but just not sure, to your point and what others have said, I'm not sure that there's enough there for us to make this a separate initiative. We do have that limited amount of time, and I think we have a really, really strong work plan with those first 3 items. So just food for thought.
This is Commissioner McCray. I would say that I agree that pursuing this too much would be a duplication of effort. I think that I'm in agreement with Mr. Hollis that I'm not sure this deserves to be a work plan item. However, I also think that if instead of even sending sources that we already know are out there, I think maybe just a simple thing would be, for the commissioners to review this and say, is there still any unmet need? I mean, like if you go on there and you say, man, I know people who are looking for X resource and it's not on there, whether you even know what the solution would be or not, just like if you were like, I know people are looking for food and it's not on there, it is on there. So I know that's not a good example, but whatever it would be, that would be a situation where I think we'd want to address it. But unless we can come up with an actual need for this, I'm not sure it needs further exploration from us. And in particular, since it is in partnership with the city of High Point, I have the feeling that if we were to establish a need that is not addressed by this, we could forward it to them and specifically say, hey, I know people are looking for X thing and it's not on your website. Can you add it? And they would probably consider that. I feel like that would be, a good way to proceed if we see that. I'm not even sure it's worth readdressing unless we actually find those holes in what they're offering already.
Mr. Chair, I agree with Commissioner McCray. And from a staff standpoint, we'll be more than happy to reach out to the foundation and see what the most efficient and expedient way for us to update, add resources. If there is an email address that we can just drop that into or whatever that is, we can do that at the staff level, no problem, and reach out. And this might result in at some meeting in the future, we invite Patrick over to talk to us, give an update, talk about the site. But I think that's really doable, and we could do that in the commission of our regular duties. No problem at all.
This is Commissioner Clark, and you're right, Mr. Hollis, this is it's a big website, and I've never been to navigate it to find what you need, but I did just find just typing in the search community resources, and there's an excellent list of resources on there already, so which I didn't realize, so that's fantastic. And maybe just making people aware of that particular, maybe doing a post on the High Point City page periodically just to tell people that resource is available for them to do searches for needs, filling of needs.
I think, based on the detailed conversation or a bit more additional discussion, I think we are going to reconsider this being on our work plan for 2021. And that is pretty much what we had on the list. So back to Mr. Hollis.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, for your consideration, maybe the commission could entertain a motion to advance the first 3 items on the work plan.
Sure.
That sort of some of the cleanup work that our team could do to get some of the language, because I know we've captured a lot of data. I don't know that it's all been dropped into the template, but I think everybody has a collective understanding of sort of summarizing those, especially those first 3 items. So maybe if the commission wants to take a vote on whether to include those top 3 items in the work plan, and staff could come back and kind of format that in a way that we could have it ready to share and submit at the next scheduled once we get on the next available city council agenda. Mr. Councilmember Johnson, is there anything that you would like to add to that as far as process? Any suggestions you can give us or ideas?
I do apologize. This is Councilman Johnson. You were kind of going in and out, at least on my phone, you were kind of going in and out. If you would repeat, I heard Johnson at the end, but if you could repeat that, what you said.
Okay. Do you have any ideas? We were in relation to getting on the city council agenda with those first 3 items that we talked about that the commission is about to take a vote on. Any problem with us just getting those cleaned up and then requesting to have those whenever the next available time we can get on the council agenda?
Yes. Yes, Councilman Johnson, Tyrone Johnson. I don't see any issue with getting those, the ones that we do vote on today, getting those on the calendar for the council. So there's no issue with that.
Thank you, Councilman Johnson.
Yes, sir. Just allow us enough time to put it on there. So.
Okay. So Mr. Chair, at this point, I think if you can get a motion and the commission votes on those items, I think we will, and then I'll turn it back over to Jelani. I'm not sure what else we had on today's planned agenda, but I think that will go a long way in us getting to a really great stopping point. Jelani?
No, just to piggyback off Jerron, once we get a vote, if we want to recap just the framework of the 3 items that will be included on the work plan, then Mr. Chair, if you wouldn't mind just entertaining a motion from the floor.
So we would be going over the 3 topics first, or we can just go ahead and move into the motion now.
Tammy, if you wouldn't mind just recapping that information.
Okay. The 2021 work plan development, the first item was the fair housing research. Decided they would institute a subcommittee to establish participation of about maybe at least three of our commissioners, and have that information for the next Human Relations Commission's meeting. And in that meeting, we'll establish some type of format as far as a commitment by the commissioners, as well as a schedule of how they want to entertain getting the fair housing research program started. And then the second one, you want to go ahead and vote now with that one, or you want me to go through all of them and then make a vote as far as summarizing?
I think if we run through all of them and
yeah. The second one will be the conflict resolution training, in which there has been a decision as far as particularly getting in touch with the Mecklenburg Human Relations Commission to see how their training is offered, and then later to list any agencies and costs with interest in volunteering for that, and any involvement as far as the FAP agency is concerned, any basic introduction, of course, in the conflict of resolution training, a basic introductory course for the commissioners. And then the last one, or the third one, was the youth homework assistance program. We were going to launch that sometime in September, establish any type of parameters to reach out to the community stakeholders. The deadline for that would be by the March HRC meeting, regular meeting. And in that meeting, we will identify stakeholders at that meeting. those are the three that that was interest shown. The curate directory for the helper organizations, there was not a need for that because that particular resource already exists on the website in more than one area within our website. So that's just, that was deleted as being a work item, a work plan item.
Thank you, Tammy.
Um,
All
do you want
right.
me-
You can go ahead.
Okay, this is Commissioner Clark, and I was just going to make a motion that we move forward with the first three items on our work plan agenda that Tammy just reviewed. I make a motion to do that, move forward with those and table the fourth.
I second.
Second the motion. This is Commissioner McCray.
Okay, we're going to take a vote at the moment for the members. Those who are in agreement with the motion going forward with the three items that were suggested with the work plan to be later considered for introductory to the next city council meeting on their agenda. Commissioner Bandari, are you in agreement?
Yes, aye.
Commissioner Davis,
Yes, aye.
Commissioner Jones,
Aye.
Commissioner Price,
Aye.
Commissioner Iqbal,
Aye.
Commissioner Clark,
Aye.
and Commissioner McCray.
Aye.
Okay, motion has been extended or approved by the members by a vote of 7-0.
Did did I don't remember hearing Mr. Price. Was he in? Did you ask him?
Yes,
Mr.
he's
Yes.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. I just didn't want to leave anyone out. Thank you.
Okay.
Sorry about that, Tammy.
That's okay. For the next item agenda, the conflict resolution training is going forward with city council at their next agenda meeting as far as a work plan for the Human Relations Commission. We're going to start with Commissioner McCray,
Aye.
Commissioner Clark,
Aye.
Commissioner Iqbal,
Aye.
Commissioner Price,
Aye.
Commissioner Jones,
Aye.
Commissioner Davis,
Aye.
and Commissioner Bandari.
aye.
Okay, that motion has been approved by the members by a vote of 7-0 for the conflict resolution training to be introduced to council as part of a work plan, 2021 work plan. The last one would be the Youth Homework Assistance Program. We're going to start with Commissioner Clark.
Aye. Aye.
Commissioner-
Did you?
Yes, ma'am, I heard you. Commissioner Iqbal,
Aye.
Commissioner Price. Commissioner-
Aye.
Okay, Commissioner McCray,
Aye.
Commissioner Jones,
Aye.
Commissioner Bandari,
Aye.
Commissioner Davis.
Aye.
Okay, vote of 7-0 for the commissioners agreeing upon the Youth Homework Assistance Program to be introduced to council at their next scheduled meeting for their 2021 work plans for the year. Vote of 7-0. And I think that's it. It was just three of them that we were considering. The curate, the directory for helper organizations. That was not something that you decided to vote upon. Is that correct?
That's correct, Tammy. Thank you so much for those votes on those items. That ends the kind of structured portion of our retreat today. I did want to just take a moment to not only thank all of you for being active and engaged, but I think we can all feel good about walking away with a really robust and impactful work plan this year. And I'm excited to get started. I also want to thank Councilmember Johnson for sticking with us for this long retreat and engaging with us. I don't think you can say enough how important it is to have an elected official to actually be in a work session, help us plan out a work plan like this. And thank you all, but I also want to let John say anything.
Yeah, just I want to thank Ryan with our marketing division for being our technology backbone. You know, when you don't have any glitches, people don't say anything. They don't say thank you, but when you do, then they want to know, well, who's running this thing? So thank you, Ryan, for helping us with the technology portion of putting the meeting together. I don't have anything else to add, Jelani. Back to you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. If you had anything before adjourning.
No, Mr. McCray has.
Yeah, I just had a quick question. Are we then going to vote on Humanitarian of the Year next meeting, in our February meeting?
That is something I think you were, Commissioner McCray, the only one that introduced, and correct me if I'm wrong, if anybody else had one to discuss today, a potential nominee for Humanitarian of the Year. And you're more than welcome to bring that up again if you want to review with the group who that was. I think it was the staff of the DEP program.
Yeah, I don't know that we need to. I just wanted to make sure that that wasn't an item that we'd forgotten in any way. I know we had the initial, at our last meeting, according to the minutes, we were going to discuss it today if there were additional nominees, and I just wanted to make sure we hadn't missed it somehow.
Sure, and time frame wise, we usually try to get this done around this time because it actually coincides with what would have been the events associated with Martin Luther King Day. Since that's not happening, I don't know if it's as time sensitive. I'll let Jerron chime in if he feels strongly about it, but I think it is an item that we could carry to the next meeting.
Yeah, I agree with what Jelani said. There's if this is something we want to entertain at the next meeting, I think that works.
Mr. Chair.
Sure, and then we can conclude the meeting now, right?
Excuse me, Mr. Chair.
Sure.
I want to ask, Mr. Jones, one of our last meeting, you had mentioned you had some books that you were trying to get rid of. Do you still have them, or do you still have them available? Because I did find a resource that would be interested in them if they're still available.
I think my husband may have distributed them, but let me check so we can touch base offline.
All right, thank you.
That'll be great. Thank you.
Back to you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you so much.
And Mr. Chair, if you just want to ask for a motion to adjourn.
Sure. I just wanted to say, I think we had a really productive, retreat meeting today virtually. And just wanted to say, stay safe and, just hopefully 2021 would be slightly better than 2020. It's been tough. At this point, I just wanted to say thank you so much for your time, managing to be on it, a couple hours. But this is exciting. I'm excited to be working on all these work plan items, and I think we covered pretty much everything in detail. So at this point, I would like to make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second. This is Vice Chair Willie Davis. I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
This is Commissioner Price. I second the motion.
Okay, motion made by Commissioner Bandari to have the meeting adjourned, and was it seconded by Commissioner Davis? Is that correct? Okay. Okay, the motion to adjourn the meeting. We're going to go through the Roberts rule as far as the commissioners agreeing to this. We're going to go with the roll, a virtual roll. We're going to do Commissioner McCray.
Aye.
Commissioner Clark.
Aye.
Commissioner Iqbal. Commissioner Iqbal. Okay. Commissioner Price,
Aye.
Commissioner Jones,
Aye.
Commissioner Davis,
Aye.
and Commissioner Bandari.
Aye.
A vote of 7-0, the meeting has been approved to adjourn at 12:35.
Goodbye, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.